Super Naruto Rapid Systems Upgrading. Chapter 61. Is this guy a fool? The golden horn was stunned, and the silver horn, even the cork of the red gourd had been opened, but it was blocked by Lee Jexuan, and he forced it back again. Masakura, what are you doing? Moyi quickly went up and pulled Lee Jexuan back. The golden horn and the silver horn gritted their teeth, but they endured it and comforted themselves. This is my little brother, I chose. Slightly calmed down, the golden horn and the silver horn looked at each other in the air, and the tacit understanding of the twins made them lift the 6 ninjas together. I confirmed the look in my eyes, I met the right person. 5 seconds later, let's do it together. Seeing this, Lee Jexuan could not help clenching his fists. Why haven't you discovered this second-generation idiot? If it wasn't for the first wave of big moves for fear of eating golden and silver horns, Lee Jexuan really wanted to go up and shave 2 big ears in the door. Gritting his teeth, Lee Jexuan picked up another piece of cake and stood in front of Golden Horn. Master Golden Horn, this cake is delicious. Would you like to have one? This man must be a fool. Golden Horn confirmed this, and confirmed that this person is not only stupid, but also a foodie. Take him down to me and tie it up. The golden horn gritted his teeth and closed the lid of the amber Jing bottle for the second time. Zhen Ying, he is ill today, and his brain is not good. Moyi hurried up to pull Lee Jexuan off, and really took out a rope to tie him up. The whole world is clean. The golden horn and the silver horn let out a long sigh, and smiled at each other. When this matter is over, this true cherry must be killed. Zhen Ying, are you crazy? Moyi said, if you are not crazy, I will almost go crazy. Today is such an important day, can you save some snacks? Lee Jexuan smiled helplessly. He didn't want it either. Who would have thought that Shinshojian and Lei Ying's reaction was so slow that he hadn't recovered until now? Again, the eyes of the golden horn and the silver horn met in the air, and at the same time opened the lid of the ninja. It looks like you can only stop them forcibly. Lee Jexuan was about to break free of the rope, and a hand suddenly pulled him. Boss Junying, don't worry. It was Yamada Junzun who stopped in front of Lee Jexuan, and there seemed to be stars twinkling in his eyes. Maybe Konoha is the only thing that obscures the truth. What? Lee Jexuan froze for a moment, and after he calmed down, he realized that Shinshojian and Lei Ying's body were a little tight. It turns out that they have discovered it. Yamada Needle sighed and said, even though it has been discovered, but things have not happened, they can't do it in advance in their position. That's it. Jin Zhao Yin Zhao, as a senior of Yunren, even if it is discovered in advance that they have a rebellious intention, if something does not happen, there is no evidence to do it. Lee Jexuan nodded lightly, but soon raised his eyebrows again, thinking inwardly, this Yamada Junzun seems a bit unusual. Who is he? Just as Lee Jexuan was puzzled, Jin Zhao Yin Zhao roared, Shinshojian, I call you, do you dare to agree? Fool. Lei Ying and Fei Jian looked at Golden Horn and Silver Horn with mentally retarded eyes. Put down the bottle in your hand and talk to me. Realizing that he was humiliated, Golden Horn and Silver Horn couldn't help it anymore, patted the table and stood up. Do it. As soon as the words came out, the detonating talisman in the next room exploded. Jin Zhao Yin Zhao laughed at Shinshojian. Fei, your subordinates are all dead now, go and accompany them too. However, the voice did not fall. Master Feijian. A Konoha's Zongren emerged from the ruins, with only minor injuries. The golden horn choked, barely smiled and said, your luck is good, but... Master Feijian. Another Konoha Zongren came out of the ruins. At this moment, the two brothers Golden Horn and Silver Horn were completely stunned. Immediately afterwards, Konoha's ninjas were like cascading cannons, drilling out of the ruins one by one. After a long pause, Golden Horn gritted his teeth and yelled at Moyi, Moyi, what is going on? Didn't you say that everything is done? Moyi scratched his head questioningly. No, every table should have a detonation symbol. At this moment, Konoha, who was the first to drill out, dubiously took out a broken detonating charm with missing 4 corners. Master Naruto, there is a damaged detonating charm under each of our tables. Damaged detonator. Jin Zhao and Moyi both stared. Lee Jexuan stood up and smiled shyly. I feel that removing the 4 corners will look better. Quote. Without a little defense, the golden and silver horns turned like Ultraman. 2 terrifying monsters like 9 tails broke the house and smashed the mountain top. Boy, I'm going to kill you. After the nine-tailed chakra broke out, the golden horn and the silver horn easily penetrated Li Jexuan's transformation technique. Ah, Li Jexuan scratched his head and smiled bitterly, it's too bad. Since the disguise had lost its meaning, Li Jexuan changed back to his original appearance simply and neatly. Fairy Jiao mode, 8-door Dunjia Jingmun open. Facing such an enemy, Li Jexuan did not have any luck and faced it with the strongest posture. At this time, Jinzhao Yinzhao's men had already surrounded them. Even though Konoha's combat power is still intact, this is Union Village after all, and the strengths of the two are not the same. Li Jexuan, it really is you. Qin Shoujian instantaneously stood next to Li Jexuan, intentionally or unconsciously looked towards Yamada Needle, and protected him behind him. Master, now is not the time to relive the old. Li Jexuan smiled helplessly. Let's run quickly. The golden horn and silver horn that turned into a nine-tailed monster directly smashed the mountaintop of Yunren village, and the vertical pupil like a fox was staring at them closely. This body shape is much more exaggerated than in anime. It seems that in the anime, the strength after the reincarnation of the dirty soil has dropped too much. I want you to die. Golden Horn roared fiercely and slapped it, as if the sky was falling, and the huge palm shot the entire mountain into a pile of gravel. The smoke slowly dissipated, and Li Jexuan, who was suspended in midair, shook his head helplessly. Please, since there is such a power, what kind of bomb attack? HMPH, brat, because of you, we have to fight a tough fight. Yin Zhao roared and stretched out his paws, trying to pinch Raikage into a pile of rotten meat. Heavy current violence. The strong blue thunder directly folds Silverhorn's claws in half. But before Lei Ying was happy, the claws recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. The flesh and blood of Nine Tails not only include the almost infinite chakra, but also the terrifying recovery ability. Fight and fight can't win, fight and fight can't die. Such a monster is really helpless. But, if you don't try it, how can you be willing? Li Jexuan grinned Jayan, Shen Mao ugly. Zhao Lei Che. The terrifying white thunder pulled a terrifying lightning in the air. Compared with before, the Zhao Lei Che after adding Kakashi's blood is even more terrifying. If Rachel can only be counted as ordinary S ninjutsu, before Li Jexuan Zhao Rachel was an advanced S-level ninjutsu, then the current Zhao Rachel is a forbidden S-level. Such a terrifying power made the earth make a crackling electric sound. However, the pale light stayed quietly in the golden horn's chest, and the terrifying white blade was firmly blocked in front of the golden horn's heart by the nine-tailed chakra. Still not working, Li Jexuan gently shook his head, let go of his hand decisively, and let Zhao Leiki release his final strength. Om! Terrifying energy exploded in Golden Horn's chest, the whole world was plunged into a white light, and everyone temporarily lost their visual ability. When Golden Horn returned to his senses again, he couldn't help grinning at the hideous wound on his chest that almost pierced through. It's dangerous, I almost died, that nasty kid. When talking about Li Jexuan, Jin Zhao's eyes widened in surprise. Where is that kid? Brother, that kid slipped away. Yin Zhao smashed half of the mountain with an angry punch. Zhao Leiki is already Li Jexuan's single-point lethal ninjutsu. He hasn't been able to penetrate the Golden Horn. If he doesn't run at this time, when will he wait? 36 strategies, the best strategy. Hell Punch 4 Kansho. In the mountains of Yunren village, violent lightning flashed, and the second generation of Lei Ying turned into a thunder light and slammed into Yin Zhao's chest. However, Shibenkansho was obviously not enough to penetrate the silver horn's tailed animal body. Like Zhao Leiki, he stopped outside his heart. This time I won't let you run away. The golden and silver horns caught Raikage fiercely. At this time, in the forest not far away, Konoha's surviving ninjas finally gathered together, but this time more people survived than in the anime. This time, the loss was so heavy. Chinsho Janma was very self-blame, I didn't think carefully enough. Just as Chinshojian was preparing to take the sensational route, Li Jexuan reluctantly shook his head, shall we hurry up? Then Raikage may not last long. The dazzling thunder in the sky hasn't flickered for a long time. They Konoha ninjas can run away, but Yunren can't run away. In this way, it can be regarded as delaying time for them. But before the words were finished, Raikage's chakra aura suddenly disappeared. The second generation of Raikage, the glory of life and the wretchedness of death, only delayed so much time. Li Jexuan curled his lips in disdain. The 3 generations of Raikage fought for 3 days and 3 nights with one enemy all over the world, letting you fight against 2 pirated Nine-Tails and kneel in 5 minutes. There is no doubt that Raikage is the weakest in history. But embarrassingly, when Lei Ying died, the 2 monsters in the distance cast their eyes on them. Little devil of Konoha, even if you escape to the end of the world, I will kill you. The terrifying monster roared to the sky, and Li Jexuan couldn't help but shrink his neck. It's really hard to be a human being. If you accidentally take the trouble to yourself. By the way, didn't you want to kill 1,000 hands in the beginning? You must have a beginning and an end. Oh, if my surname is Sun, I won't kill you 2 little monsters. Li Jexuan sighed slightly. Give me 1 billion points, you can get as much as a car. Unfortunately, there is nothing. With Li Jexuan's crazy thoughts, Konoha's team took advantage of the trend to enter the plot. Just like the Naruto story, Shikamaru's grandfather said very wittily, "It seems that we must be delayed, otherwise we will definitely be caught up." However, those who procrastinate may die. As soon as he finished speaking, Shikamaru's father stared at Li Jexuan with his eyes. "Why do you see me?" Li Jexuan's eyes widened in irritation. "Don't assume that I have never seen Hokage. The plot is not like this. There is nothing wrong with me." The awkward atmosphere spread, and finally Chinshojian stood up and said the famous sentence, "Who is going to die after chasing soldiers?" Li Jexuan nodded in satisfaction. "That's right, the original plot should be like this." In the original plot, Sarutobi is more brave than Danzo, so he won the trust of the family. I go. Sure enough, even though Danzo was dead, Sarutobi Hizen was still the upright man. I am arrogant to be the strongest among us. Ha, Li Jexuan picked his eyes. Ahem, Sarutobi's old face blushed, saying, "In short, I am willing to go." Seeing this, Chinshojian was very pleased. As for the others, they stared at Li Jexuan angrily. "You are strong, you are on the contrary, bragging is very powerful. No, you are all Konoha's future. Naturally, it should be given to me." Chinshojian stood up with a grin and said, "Sorry, I was testing you just now. But you are Hokage. Because it is Hokage, I need to stay even more." As he said, Chinshojian turned his head and looked at Sarutobi seriously. "Monkey, starting tomorrow." And many more. If this continues, isn't there a little change in the plot? So, the second generation is still dead. Is it true that no matter how hard I work, there will be no changes in history? There are so many sack bridges. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth and jumped out, stopped Chinshojian, and grudgingly said with a grudgingly, "Master, you have done well at this age, Tsunade is still waiting for you to go home." Why? Chinshufa widened his eyes in doubt. He never thought that Li Jexuan would stand up for him. "You just think I'm for Tsunade." Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. Anyway, he didn't want to die here with Chinshojian. Mission, Tsunade, and his pride as a traveler. "I didn't cross over, you are dead. I cross over, you are still dead. Co-authored me for nothing, right? As a traverser, you will never tolerate it." Fairy Jiao mode, 8-door Dunjia Jingmun open. Li Jexuan roared and entered the battle mode. "Look at what you see, I don't necessarily lose, Xiaoyi, maybe I succeed in bursting, and I can beat a country by myself." No, it's behind you." Everyone opened their mouths in surprise. "Behind me." At this moment, an arm rested on Li Jexuan's shoulder. "Captain, you also want to go home to see Tsunade, let me come here." "What? Senjuma, Yamada Needle." Li Jexuan never thought that the Yamada Needle who he spent day and night was disguised by Senjuzuzuma. This is the same incredible as Jack Ma arrives at your home to beg a beggar. Just as Li Jexuan was surprised, the golden and silver horns had already caught up. The terrifying nine-tailed monster rushed towards Konoha and everyone. The huge fox claws like the sky fell fiercely. Li Jexuan frowned subconsciously. "Everyone, run away." However, before the words were finished, Chinsho Zujian stopped Li Jexuan and laughed out a brand-style bold laugh. "Summary, I will give you the first and last lesson of being Hokage. What? As Hokage, I want to turn into Konoha's strongest shield to protect the villagers." As he said, his palm stretched out between the 1,000 hands. Mu done the technique of ranking. A huge grimace wooden shield firmly blocked the claws of the Golden Horn and Silver Horn, and they could not break through no matter how much they scratched. Roar! This completely angered the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers, opened their huge mouths, and the terrifying chakra began to gather quickly. Tailed Beast Jade. Li Jexuan's eyes widened in horror. He never expected that the two brothers' tail beastization was so powerful that he had even mastered the tail beast Jade that annihilated everything. However, Psychicism 5 Rashomon. The 5 ghost faces suddenly appeared at the gate, and completely took down the 2 incomplete tail beast Jade. Seeing that their strongest attack methods were useless, the 2 Jinjiao and Yinjiao finally recovered some sense, and yelled in horror, "Sensho Zuma, you are still alive." However, Sensho Zuma ignored them, just stared at Li Jexuan closely and smiled and said, "As Hokage, not only does he learn to guard, but he also needs to transform into an invincible spear to completely defeat all the enemies that come." Quote. Speaking of this, a piece of Senjuzujian's face suddenly fell off, something like tree bark. "Big brother," Shinshojian couldn't help but exclaimed, "leave it to me next." "No, you are far from enough." Shinsho Zuma smiled and shook his head, his hands sealed. "Shanfa, Mu done, really thousands of hands." The terrifying chakra started, the whole land trembled violently, and a huge thousand-handed Buddha slowly rose from the ground. If the 2 pirated 9 tails are like a mountain, then the thousand-handed Buddha is the boundless sky. The Golden Horn and the Silver Horn in front of Thousand Hands Buddha are as ridiculous as 2 insects. Seeing this, Shinshojian couldn't help clenching his teeth. He knew that he could no longer stop Chinshojuma. At this moment, Li Jexuan and Chinsho Zujian stood on top of the Chinsho Buddha's head, looking down at all beings. "Are you going to die?" The Sensho Zujian is like an old and decayed tree, with its dry bark peeling off. Faced with Li Jexuan's question, Chinsho Zuma smiled and shook his head. "The fallen leaves are not death. When I burn out, the remaining ashes will nourish new leaves." This said again. When watching the animation, I don't know how many people have been brainwashed by this set. Li Jexuan's eyes widened stubbornly. "I may not be the young leaf you think." Hearing this, Senjujuma laughed loudly. "Yes, my captain, you are already a mature ninja, and your future will far surpass me." Is it more than the first generation? The former Li Jexuan was very confident about this, but when he stood on top of this giant Buddha, "Can I really cross the sky?" Li Jexuan questioned himself for the first time. Even if he worked so hard, he still failed to change history. In the end, I just wanted to use my life to replace the second generation. Such self. Can he really surpass the ninja world? What's the matter, Captain? Have you lost confidence in yourself? The first generation laughed loudly. "In this case, I don't worry about giving Tsunade to you." Nani. Hearing this, Li Jexuan gritted his teeth and roared, "Old man, what are you talking about? Let alone the sky, the journey of the young master is the sea of stars." "That's right, my captain." The protagonist of Thousand Hands laughed, and then as if pinching a snail, he grabbed the golden and silver horns. The 2 brothers who were inexorable or no different from a chicken in the hands of the first generation. "It's a pity, Kyubi is not here." As he was talking, Chinsho Zujian used a sealing technique to the 9-tailed chakra from the Golden Horn and Silver Horn, then changed his hand and stuffed it into Li Jexuan's body. Ding! Obtain the 9-tailed chakra, survival level. Ding! Obtain the intercolumnar cell's origin level. What is this for? Li Jexuan's eyes widened in surprise. Do you Hokage like stuffing other people's bodies so much? Chinshuju did not explain, but sent Li Jexuan back to the ground with a light palm. Golden Horn and Silver Horn's troops have chased over. The ninjas all over the mountains and plains rushed towards the thousand-handed Buddha-like ants. Li Jexuan, Tsunade, and Konoha will be handed over to you. Senjuzuma smiled lightly, and the whole body slowly turned into wood, mewed on top of the Buddha. The horrible Thousand Hands Buddha moved. Thousands of wooden hands with large mountain peaks blasted all Yunrin's peaks to the ground. Thousands of Yunrin who came to commit the crime were instantly beaten to dust. Big brother, the original Hokage-sama, the second generation and Rijin roared with grief, but Li Jexuan, who was falling from the sky, was very calm. There was a puzzle in his heart. The wind, blowing quietly, brings the fresh fragrance of vegetation. A giant tree standing between Konoha and Yunnan, like Konoha's patron saint, propped up the sky here. The first generation, dead. Thousands of hands gritted their teeth and said to retreat. At this time, the alliance with Yunren was no longer necessary. From now on, Konoha and Yunren will never die. Retreat immediately and return to Konoha. Li Jexuan stood quietly on the spot, spreading his palms, and a small sapling grew quietly. Naruto. At this moment, he can clearly feel this world. If Tsunade made him feel at home, then the first generation made him understand that he is not a visitor from another world, he is a real living person here. It's too much. Even someone like me who has seen Naruto would be brainwashed. Li Jexuan smiled bitterly and shook his head. However, the reason why I liked Naruto so much in my previous life may be because of this. Epic mission. The expectations of the first generation. Task content. Become a qualified Naruto. Task reward. 1 Super Shadow Treasure Chest, 1 million points. You fellow, don't forget to trouble me when you die. Li Jexuan shrugged helplessly. The gift before leaving between Chinshuju was undoubtedly 2 time bombs. 9-tailed chakra, Uchiha Madara. He would never let Li Jexuan go if he wanted to resurrect 10-tailed. And the first generation of Mudden cells. Li Jexuan, as the only heir who has Mudun cells now, not to mention being targeted by Da Shi-wan, just using Mudun to consume lifespan made Li Jexuan scratch his head. This thing is strong, but it's life-consuming. Forget it. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. Since you want to surpass the first generation, then Uchiha Madara, the defeated general, need not be too afraid. As for the drawbacks of the first generation cells, Li Jexuan opened them all, and there were as many life-increasing items in the heavens as the stars. Upon returning to Konoha, the news of the attack on the Alliance team spread like wildfire. The whole Konoha made a sensation. Medway limped and rushed home from the hospital. After seeing that Li Jexuan was safe and sound, he let out a sigh of relief. It's fine if it's all right, your youth is far from burning out. Uchiha Yuya turned his head proudly. I'm not worried about your safety, Captain, I just don't want to change teams, it's too much trouble. Hearing this, everyone in Li Jexuan's team burst into laughter. Li Jexuan also laughed, but he couldn't say a word. With his current strength, Hyuga Yizu, even if they have a curse, they can no longer keep up. But at this moment, Tsunade opened the door and walked in. Princess Konoha, who used to be lively and cheerful, had red eyes today, and she had obviously cried. Tsunade. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth and apologized. It was my fault, I failed to bring the first generation back, No, Jexuan-kun, that's not to blame you. Tsunade leaned quietly in Li Jexuan's arms. The second grandpa said that it was grandpa's choice as Hokage. Naruto's choice. Li Jexuan shook his head lightly. Maybe he couldn't understand this feeling without being a Hokage. From today, take Hokage as the goal. Li Jexuan hugged Tsunade tightly, and he had made up his mind. As a traverser, he must be the strongest ninja and the most beautiful girl sleeping. When you come to the world of Naruto, you have to be a Naruto in any way and leave your mark on that shadow rock. When the news spread, Sarutobi Hizen quietly knelt down in front of Chinshojian. Monkey, what do you think of Li Jexuan? Sarutobi Risen nodded without hesitation. The talent of Tianzong is far stronger than his disciple, and he is more suitable to serve as Hokage. Thousands of hands were silent for a while, and then suddenly said, Monkey, it's not that powerful can serve as Hokage. Uchiha Madara's strength is far stronger than mine, but he can't become Hokage. Sensho Janma sneered, squinting, because there is darkness in his heart. Master, what do you mean? Sarutobi Hizen was a little surprised. Chinshojian gently shook his head. I don't know, but since the eldest brother recognizes him, and I recognize you, then help me see the monkey. See if he is qualified to become Hokage. And at this time, in Maitreya's home. Rescue thousands of hands mission, completed. Task reward. 100,000 points, 1 shadow level treasure chest. Although Chinshozuma was dead, the task of saving Chinsho Janma was completed. However, Li Jexuan was not happy. Power. He needs stronger power. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth secretly. If he had the power of the first generation, they would not have to flee, and the first generation would not have to die. 100,000 points, redeem it. What does the host need? I want the ultimate move of the Ice Young General in the world of One Piece Ice Age. Ding. Congratulations on your successful exchange and get the Ice Age scroll. With the ding-dong sound of the system, an ice blue scroll appeared in Li Jexuan's hands. Ha! The violent sea wind howled, and the magnificent sea showed its turbulence wantonly. A tall figure appeared on the sea, quietly inserted his hand into the sea, and said coldly, Ice Age. The terrifying cold air spread, easily freezing the entire sea into ice. When the consciousness slowly receded, Li Jexuan opened his eyes, and there was already an A-level ninjutsu in the character column. Character: Li Jexuan. Title: Shattered Undead. Ninjutsu: 8 Doors Dunjia S Jiao Leiki S Osha Pill Immortality Secret Technique S Ice Age A. The youngster's big move turned out to be just A-level ninjutsu. There is no upper limit for the Ice Age of the youngster. This level is determined according to the limit of the host's maximum strength. Hearing this, Li Jexuan was stunned. In the world of One Piece, there is no limit to power. In other words, this power is related to Li Jexuan's blood succession boundary. It seems that I have a chance to find a member of the Bai family. If I remember correctly, it should be in the country of water, a village that always snows. Such obvious features should not be difficult to find. Find people who have the boundaries of Bingdun, and then cultivate more boundaries. When I think of this, Li Jexuan has a headache. Even if he finds the heir of Bingdun, without the core technology of Uncle Snake, these are meaningless. As for Uncle Snake himself, it's just a good man now. However, Masaru develops a plan. When Li Jexuan was in doubt, an Anbu suddenly knocked on Li Jexuan's door. Hello, Li Jexuan. Anbu, what's the matter? Li Jexuan looked a little confused. Anbu belonged to Hokage. When did he speak so politely? Your appointment has come down. You are now the captain of Anbu. Anbu, wearing an elephant mask, looked at Li Jexuan, who was only thigh-high, and was a little embarrassed. How could he not think that he would be led by such a little older child? To make matters worse, not long ago, he was also responsible for monitoring Li Jexuan, and Li Jexuan and Tsunade were in love from each other to life and death. I won't be wearing shoes in the future. Dark Force Captain. Li Jexuan also seemed very surprised. The position of the Dark Force commander was extraordinary, almost equivalent to the commander of the ancient Jin Yue on Earth. It can be said that one person is below 10,000 people. Except for Hokage, no matter who it is, it doesn't care about it. No matter whether you are Uchiha or Hyuga, or Pig Deer Butterfly, there is no way out. Okay, I get it. However, Li Jexuan was not too excited. After all, for a man whose goal is the Sea of Stars, a Dark Force commander is nothing more than that. Danzo is the leader of the Roots, and he hasn't been blasted into scum. Everything is virtual, only power is real. Coming to the heavily guarded Anbu secret room, the first thing to decide is the mask. Picking up a white fox mask, Li Jexuan formally took over the affairs of Anbu. Captain Jia Zan, these are the squad leaders of Anbi. They are directly responsible to you. The masks of the squad leaders are also very strange. They are octopus, panda, praying mantis, and civet cat. Captain Panda spoke first, with a crisp laugh like a silver bell. I have seen the captain. I am the Dark Captain in charge of intelligence in various countries. Please take care of me in the future. Is it actually a female panda in charge of intelligence? It's really deceptive. Li Jexuan grinned and said, I am here for the first time, and I will rely on Captain Panda for support. At this time, the Mantis Mosque's team leader dismissed his lips and said, Hey, who would have thought that the captain of the Airborne was a nasty child, boring. With that, Mantis Anbu wanted to leave directly. I will give you 3 seconds to stand back where you are. Hearing this, Mantis Anbu curled his lips provocatively. If I don't go back, so what? Fairy Jiao mode, 8-door Dunjia opened the door. Li Jexuan deliberately gave these arrogant Dark Forces commanders a disarm, and almost brought out the strongest state. The terrifying chakra rose to the sky. This is... Mantis Anbu turned his head fiercely, but before he could make any movements, Li Jexuan had already pinched his neck. Mantis Anbu raised his head in agony, his mouth squirming to ask for mercy. But Li Jexuan did not hesitate, and directly interrupted his limbs and threw him in the corner. Seeing this, the Anbu couldn't help lowering their heads. Unexpectedly, the rumors turned out to be true, and this Li Jexuan really possesses shadow-level strength. Li Jexuan clapped his hands and sneered disdainfully. Maybe you think I am not qualified to be in this position, maybe you think that the strength of Shangren is strong enough. Anbu is special and arrogant. Li Jexuan, as the commander of the airborne dark forces without any care, would naturally cause dissatisfaction. And Li Jexuan's way to deal with dissatisfaction is also very simple, that is, to convince you. My fist is bigger than you, and what I say is the truth. Sure enough, interrupted the back of the limbs of the mantis Anbu. The other dark commanders are much more honest. Sir Captain, I am in charge of Konoha's dark captain fighting against other countries. My name is Octopus. Octopus Anbu dare not say anything. Previously, the position of the mantis Anbu was also clarified. It was the assassination leader in charge of assassinating the target. Let him go to the hospital for training for a period of time, and the original deputy captain will temporarily replace the captain. Li Jexuan waved his hand in disdain, and looked at the last civet cat Anbu curiously. But after waiting for a long while, Tanuki Anbu didn't speak either, but just stood there as if distracted. Seeing this, the panda in charge of intelligence quickly explained to him. The guy Limao was in charge of a case recently, and he was thinking too much, definitely not against you, the captain. Oh, what is the case? Li Jexuan looked at Tanuki Anbu curiously. As soon as he heard Li Jexuan asking about the case, Captain Tanuki came back to his senses, opened his hands slightly, and gestured to Li Jexuan, Captain, there is a very strange case. No matter how it is calculated, all the evidence shows that the ninja must climb into such a big box to commit a crime. Li Jexuan listened very seriously. Do you think any ninja can get into such a big box? Captain Tanuki opened his arms slightly, about the size of a pillow. Li Jexuan naturally tried to get into this size box. I can get in easily. As soon as he said it, Li Jexuan, including the Tanuki Anbu, was stunned. For a moment, Li Jexuan and Tanuki Anbu looked at each other. The dark part of the civet cat shook his hands the size of a box, and Li Jexuan's eyelashes couldn't help shaking slightly. It's really bad. Li Jexuan couldn't help but scratched his head secretly. Unexpectedly, the murder of Hachang was still under investigation. What's more embarrassing is, this investigator turned out to be his own subordinate. An awkward atmosphere filled the air. Just when Tanuki Anbu was about to say something, the panda Anbu on the side covered Tanuki Anbu's mouth. Haha, Captain, this fellow Tanuki is crazy to investigate the case. He is the captain in charge of Konoha's internal case. While talking, Panda Anbu dragged the Tanuki out. As soon as he left Li Jexuan's office, the civet cat complained to Panda, Yami, why are you stopping me? I think that guy must have a problem. Okay, I know. The panda stood calmly holding his arms. Do you know why you are still stopping me? Tanuki's eyes widened in surprise, and urgently asked, do you know how much effort I spent on this case? I know. The panda is still very calm. But, do you still know who the guy in your mouth is? Who is it? Tanuki asked tentatively. The suspect. I think you want to commit a crime. The panda slammed a punch on the head of the civet cat. That is the captain of the entire Anbu. So what? Tanuki curled his lips in dissatisfaction. They are the representatives of Anbu, who are not afraid of power. You didn't see that he just smashed the mantis's leg with a punch. So what? Anbu was not afraid of violence. The panda was going crazy, and finally lowered his voice and whispered, I'm not afraid to tell you, our captain is called Li Jexuan. What about Li Jexuan? As soon as he said it, the civet cat was stunned. Even if his news is not as smart as the intelligence panda, but the news has spread throughout Konoha, he will naturally not know. Killed nearly 100 enemies and killed the 2-year-old genius of Sawakage alone, Konoha's future Li Jexuan. He exists, why should he kill ordinary people like Hachan? Tanuki was a little confused. What do you care about him? The panda lowered his head very mysteriously. But, there is a rumor that the first generation of adults recognized him as the next generation of Naruto before he died. This time I come to Anbi, just gilding to get qualifications, you don't provoke him. The next generation of Naruto. Pandas are going crazy, why is this guy so stubborn? Why must we hold on to the issue of murder? Find the right key. The point is, this guy, you can't afford to offend. No, this does not match the justice in my mind. Tanuki turned and left with a serious face. Once the decisive evidence is found, I will arrest him. The panda is completely dizzy. How stubborn is this guy to catch Hokage? But, don't you just like his stubbornness? Octopus Onbi snickered and walked by. For him, everything that happened today is very interesting. And Li Jexuan in the office scratched his head a bit. What is it called? He was caught by his subordinates the first day he took office. But today is just a cutscene after all. Li Jexuan is not familiar with the operation of Anbu at all, so he can't make any decisions. After putting Anbu's mask away, Li Jexuan was about to go to Tsunade, and a person whom Li Jexuan unexpectedly found. Orochimaru. The cold-faced Dashawan was crying and whimpering with tears. Li Jexuan, I really can't help it. Is this still the cold booze I know, Uncle Snake? Li Jexuan was stunned, frowning. Say, what's going on? My parents, I'm surrounded by sand ninja. Oshimaru knelt down in front of Li Jexuan. Our family has always been a single pass. I have almost searched for everyone. No one wants to save them. Hearing this, Li Jexuan couldn't help but raised his brows. How is it possible? According to reason, Konoha is definitely not such a ruthless village. How could such a choice be made? The Dashimaru family may not be huge, but the strength is definitely not weak. After all, Longdedong, the strongest among the 3 psychic holy sites, is not something that ordinary families can have. They said this information is fake. Dashawan took out a note. We were surrounded by the Jedi Canyon in the Kingdom of Wind, and quickly sent rescue. Li Jexuan froze for a moment. He was basically sure that this sentence was forged. Because there is no code for help Konoha set up. But turned his head to look at the tearful Oshimaru. Li Jexuan knew very well that he didn't want to give up even if there was only 1% hope for Dashiwan. Please, Li Jexuan. Dashiwan gritted his teeth and shouted, if you are willing to go there, I will be a cow and a horse for you all my life, for you to drive. Hearing this, Li Jexuan couldn't help but stunned, and some unexplained light flashed in his eyes. Ding. Follow the task. The request of Oshimaru. Task content. Go to the Jedi Canyon in the Kingdom of Wind. Mission rewards. 100,000 points, 1 shadow treasure chest, the eternal follower Dashawan. Unexpectedly, Dashimaru was willing to do this for his parents. But thinking about it, it can be understood that this is just Xiao Shiwan, the reason why he became the cruel and ruthless Shiwan. It is because of the death of his parents. This can also illustrate from the side how much Dashiwan is a person who values feelings. However, the rewards of this task are so rich, the difficulty is probably not under the rescue of Chinshojian. More importantly, Li Jexuan, who killed Feng Ying not long ago, will face endless pursuit once he shows up in the Kingdom of Wind. Is one person against one country? Li Jexuan grinned involuntarily. The cowhide he had blown. Tears must be completed. I took this task. The crystal snowflakes slowly fell, and 2 small figures walked out of Konoha silently. Master, are you just watching them messing around like this? Sarutobi Hattori's eyes were full of worry, and the 2 children took the initiative to step into Sand Shinobu's trap. It was a life of 9 deaths. Chinshojian gently shook his head. Such a thing cannot be stopped. Like the choice of elder brother, Li Jexuan also made his choice. Chinshufa sighed softly and turned his head silently. 2 days later, Li Jexuan and Oshimaru had arrived at the border of the Kingdom of Wind. As soon as he approached the Kingdom of Wind, Li Jexuan's portraits of rewards spread all over the streets. Jia Zan. Dashimaru red eyes. Needless to say, wait until we save your parents. Li Jexuan opened the map, and the Jedi Canyon was like a long and narrow knife wound on the ground. Time is running out, there is nothing to hesitate. Running all the way, when Li Jexuan stood in front of this steep gorge, there seemed to be countless voices persuading him not to enter. However, Li Jexuan walked in resolutely. Hundreds of meters deep, the entrance of the canyon was suddenly blocked by nearly 100 Sharon. At this moment, Oshimaru suddenly cried, and walked towards Sand Shinobu. Sorry, Lord Jia Zan, I lied to you. If there is another life, I will definitely pay you back. Dashiwan cried and retreated into the sand, but Li Jexuan's face couldn't find any surprised color. Do you think that you have been hiding in Konoha for the rest of your life, and we will not be able to find you? Hundreds of sand ninjas surrounded Li Jexuan's 3 and 3 tiers. Li Jexuan shrugged his shoulders inconspicuously. I've never dodged it, but he took the initiative to come to his door to die. When death is imminent, you will die with a hard duck mouth. The leader Sand Ninja was first angry, and soon grinned cruelly. Unexpectedly, how does it feel to be betrayed by your own people? Hearing this, Li Jexuan suddenly grinned. Actually, I always knew that you used Dashuan's parents to coerce him to deceive me. You know, Dashi Maru's eyes widened in confusion. Yes, I knew it from the moment you asked me. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. Because you didn't let me save your parents, but asked me to come to this canyon. In addition, as the new head of the Dark Force, Sarutobi directly told Li Jexuan about the incident. If you want to save Dashuan's parents, then Li Jexuan must have one life for 2 lives. Because of this, they are unwilling to help Dashimaru. In that case, why do you come here? Hearing this, Li Jexuan himself laughed something. Yes, why? Maybe because I want to try. Try it. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. His gaze seemed to return to the knight standing on the head of Thousand Hands Buddha, quietly watching the man called the ninja. I also want to try his decision. Of course, the more important point is. Li Jexuan grinned grinningly. I didn't plan to die like this. Fairy Jiao mode, 8-door Dunjia Jingmun open. Li Jexuan drew out the pheasant sword, and the pale thunder surrounded it. I want to see how strong I am after having the 9-tailed chakra and the first generation cells. As for you, Sand Ninja is my sharpening stone. Be less arrogant, you murderer. Suddenly, a beautiful young woman with a beautiful face and a body so good that people couldn't move her eyes jumped out. Murderer, is this young woman Hachan's wife? Li Jexuan scratched his head suspiciously. Can a guy like Hachan have a wife? However, at this moment, the beautiful young woman actually roared Psychicism 10 people near song. Nani, 1000th generation mother-in-law, the hidden master of Cheyenne village. The husband is the first generation of Fungying Lidu, and the rumored boyfriend is the well-known anchor Crow. But, grandmother 1000 generations, she was so beautiful when she was young. The attractive young woman is like a ripe peach, soft and plump, as if water can flow out with a pinch. Li Jexuan's eyes widened in surprise. He couldn't associate the beautiful young woman in front of him with the old-fashioned, streaked-faced 1000th generation mother-in-law in the animation. Time is really a pig knife. Little color ruffian, what do you look at? Perhaps Li Jexuan's gaze was too aggressive, and Chio blushed and roared, You killed my husband, I will let you die here today. Buddha, Dharma, and Sang, the 3 jewels are sucked. The 3 puppets came out fiercely, opened the organ wind cave, and triggered a strong tornado, trying to draw Li Jexuan into the middle of the formation, using wind pressure to press Li Jexuan into a lump of meat. Sure enough, the more beautiful a woman, the more ruthless it will be. Li Jexuan stood quietly, letting the wind agitate, never move. How can it be? Chio's eyes widened in surprise, gritted his teeth to increase chakra output, but Li Jexuan was still unmoved. Contending directly with the B-level ninjutsu with the flesh, this guy is too terrifying. Men, you must have concentration. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. It looks like you can't avenge Lidu. Act recklessly. Chio gritted his teeth and stretched out 2 slender fingers like white jade. White secret skill 10 people near song. 10 powerful puppets surrounded Li Jexuan's group, and all kinds of organ secret techniques tilted towards Li Jexuan at the same time. Poison needle, raging fire, thunder. Boom. With a roar, dozens of B-level ninjutsu burst open, and purple poisonous smoke filled. Ha ha ha, this kid is dead. San Shinobu laughed loudly. I was hit head-on by Chiyo-sama's Kinmatsu 10 people, no one can survive. Hearing this, the Dashuan in the crowd involuntarily lowered his head, his eyes dimmed. I'm sorry, Jun-zan. Sorry, let's keep it for later. The smoke dissipated, and Li Jexuan stood unharmed. There was a layer of wooden armor and ice armor outside the scales of a mortal flood dragon. How is this possible? Everyone's eyes widened in surprise. He actually resisted the 10 songs of Chiyo-sama. Gudong. Chio pursed his lips. No, it's far more than that. It's Bing Dun and Mu Dun. How can 2 blood inheritance boundaries appear on a person at the same time? To be precise, there are 3, including the blood inheritance boundary of the Kimu family. Oh, it's terrible to have no culture. Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. After all, the blood succession boundary is the genome, otherwise Dashawan would not be able to create Yamato with only cells. What's more, the blood transplantation and the limit is not Lee Jexuan's original creation. Uchiha Madara should have transplanted the first-generation cells on the chest by now. Love him and imprint him on the heart. Madara's love for the first generation is really admirable. This kind of existence must not let him go back alive and kill him. Chio gritted his teeth and roared, finally giving up his plan to revenge alone, and nearly 1,000 ninjas swarmed. It's a pity that the number of ninjas is meaningless. The grass pheasant's sword came out, the cold light flickered. Lee Jexuan, one person and one sword, still entered the realm of no one, killing one person in 10 steps, and staying 1,000 miles. With every sword, the pheasant sword would drink blood, but their attacks on Lee Jexuan were of little use. C-level ninjutsu could only break the outermost ice armor. The B-level ninjutsu is capable of breaking through wooden armor, but the last layer of Jeline can still easily block all the damage. However, Lee Jexuan did not reach the Super Shadow level after all. A team of 10 Saiyan Kamanin stopped his slaughter. I'm afraid this is the high-end combat power of Saiyan's half of the village. Lee Jexuan stretched out the sand gun that penetrated his chest, and curled his lips disdainfully. Why didn't that fellow shaman come? I heard that he is your new style. Shadow. Master Feng Ying doesn't know about this. The leader Shangren controlled the crocodile puppet with a grin. When we kill you, we will report to him, using your head. Wind done wind blade. A green wind blade struck Lee Jexuan's arm, and the red blood trickled down. The A-level wind blade, the penetrating lethality is enough to destroy Lee Jexuan's defense. Seeing this, San Shinobu shocked. This guy is not invincible. For a time, hundreds of ninjutsu with strong penetrating power attacked Lee Jexuan like a tide. In the sky, it is raining ninjutsu. It's spectacular. Lee Jexuan's eyes widened. With his current strength, it was still too reluctant to deal with so many ninjas, but Ice Age. The fiery red chakra coat poured into Lee Jexuan's hands. At that moment, Lee Jexuan's Ice Age panel reached the S level. The palms penetrated into the ground, and the force of the terrifying ice surged, freezing everything in the canyon through the remaining water vapor in the air. The blue ice is like the earth, repairing the entire canyon. Jia Xuanjin. Dashi Maru opened his eyes stupidly, looking at the frozen sand ninjas around him. Tears flickered in his eyes. Even if he deceived Lee Jexuan, even at this time, Lee Jexuan was careful not to harm him. Kyubi, what a bug. Lee Jexuan pulled out his hand, and the power of the blood-red monster fox gushed out. The whole person is neon. Like a rainbow light, the pattern of the Jiao Shanren glows white, the 8-gate Dunjia glows green, and the 9-tailed chakra glows red. After all, the 9-tailed chakra is easy to use. After all, it is an official plugin, and almost unlimited chakras can be made at will. However, this power is only temporary. Lee Jexuan could feel that the power of the demon fox in his body was rapidly declining. After all, the golden horn and the silver horn only ate a few pieces of fox meat, and there is still a certain gap between the foxes in the body. The frozen gorge is like a work of God. Lee Jexuan smiled and tapped. Crack la la la. A terrifying crack gradually spread on the ice, leading the crack to spread across the entire canyon. With a loud noise, the entire ice canyon collapsed into countless pieces of ice, mixed with flesh and bones, and filled the entire canyon. Already settled. It seems a little too easy. Lee Jexuan's voice did not fall. 11 figures covered in chakra flames suddenly emerged from the broken ice, and the 10 Shangren including Aunt Chidai were all unharmed. The level of Shangren is really hard to get around. Lee Jexuan shook his head helplessly. As for the embarrassment of being kicked to death by Shangren after planning for a century, Lee Jexuan didn't bother to come up with it. You demon. The grandmother-in-law of the young woman widened her eyes. You killed my husband and killed nearly 1,000 ninjas. We will not let you go. Oh, beautiful women are really unreasonable. Lee Jexuan rolled his eyes and sneered. Lai Do, as a Feng Ying, lost to a child of me, so I won't say it. These ninjas are really overwhelming. Just like the tail beast you tried to Konoha, you will have to pay the price in the end. If you are so eager to die, I don't mind sending you on the road. Lee Jexuan grinned and made a fist. Baman Dunjia quietly came to Jingmun, and the raging chakra flames rushed into the sky. At this moment, a blue hat was slowly falling from the canyon. The blue dragon was entrenched, and the black dragon's claw sealed his right eye. There is a huge bald head on the yellow cloak. The big shots really appeared one after another. Li Jexuan smiled and curled his lips, secretly holding the chakra restoration potion in his palm. Ten Shinobu is already very tricky, plus Chio and the second generation Fengying. Just as Li Jexuan was about to risk his death to break through, a flaming hat appeared from the end of the canyon. Hey, Xiao Shaman, so many people besieging a child, it would be too embarrassing. Shinshojian smiled and slowly walked from a distance. Behind him, a dozen Konoha Anbu swarmed out. Captain, we are late. Konoha's reinforcements arrived, and the situation was completely reversed in an instant. Thousands of hands. You really are not dead. Shaman's face was a bit ugly. Obviously he didn't expect the Golden Horn and Silver Horn brothers to miss their hands. Thanks to you, Shaman. Shinshojian sneered and nodded. I will find a chance to settle the matter with you, but it was on the battlefield. Upon hearing this, Sandman hesitated. Although in the territory of Sand Ninja, there are many ninjas. But in terms of high-end combat power, he knew very well that he was not the opponent who was said to be the #1 speed in the ninja world. In fact, he was not confident about whether he could defeat Li Jexuan. After weighing the pros and cons. Well, Naruto, see you on the battlefield. But, the hatred of fierce fighting. The 1,000 generations on the side were a bit dissatisfied, killing their husbands and enemies as close to them, who knows the pain of not being able to take revenge. There will be a chance, Chio's sister-in-law. Shaman frowned. For the future of Sha Shinobu, please bear with me for the time being. Chio's eyes darkened, and it was really cold. Where are my parents? Dashimaru rushed forward and asked with red eyes, give them back to me. There was a long silence. Chio shook his head very apologetically. Sorry, my child, your parents are already dead. They died in this valley. Died. The Oshimaru stayed on the spot, at a loss, until the ninjas left, there was no recovery. When everyone left, the ice and snow gradually melted, and the Oshimaru, who was sitting on his knees, mumbled, Master Jia-zan, is life always so fragile? Hearing this, Li Jexuan was shocked for a while. In the original plot, Oshimaru once asked 3 generations of similar questions, but the 3 generations gave him Hokage's answer. The vegetation burns and leaves ashes, and new branches and leaves will be born. To be honest, the 3 generations do not know how to teach students in accordance with their aptitude. It might be okay to talk about this kind of thing with Ji Lai. He said with Oshimaru that the final result can only be to make Oshimaru give up Konoha faster. Because he understands that Konoha is running against his path. Man is a fragile creature. Humans are very fragile creatures. Maybe as long as there is an accident, life will end. Li Jexuan looked into the distance. What's more sad is that the ashes after death are just ordinary grass and wood ashes. It may be okay to use it as fertilizer. Dashimaru trembled in fear, and his eyes shook his head hollowly. If one day, Lord Jia-zan, you also die. Hearing this, Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. As a ninja, maybe we can develop a secret technique of immortality. Secret of immortality. A bright light broke out in Dashimaru's eyes. Is there really such a thing in the world? A lot of people fail. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. But maybe it can be successful, but you need to explore it yourself, right? With that said, Li Jexuan handed the scroll of the secret technique of immortality from the last experience of the Oshimaru to the young Oshimaru. This is for you. I hope you can create a real secret technique of immortality. I gave you your things, even if my face was as thick as Li Jexuan, I couldn't help but blush. Taking the scroll, Oshimaru's eyes widened hungrily. Returning to Konoha, Dashiwan immediately plunged into the study of forgetting to sleep and eat. For the longing for immortality, the Oshimaru in this life is no less inferior than the previous life. However, Li Jexuan was not worried that he would cause any trouble. Because Dashimaru has become his eternal follower. Follower, Oshimaru Infant. Ninja level, B. Talent, S+. Permanent loyalty, 100. In addition, Li Jexuan also completed this mission. Get 100,000 points in a shadow treasure chest. Turn on. In addition to the previously saved treasure chest from Shinshojian, the shadow level treasure chest opened in 2 consecutive. Between the fluorescent flashes, Three things appeared in Li Jexuan's hands. High-level random psychic beast summoning scroll times 3. Primary random Naruto experience scroll. Psychic evolution pill. In this one, except for the scroll of experience, the other two have never appeared. There used to be a rudimentary random psychic beast summoning scroll, but Li Jexuan had never used it. Just take this opportunity and use it. First use the elementary one and take a picture of the elementary psychic beast scroll. Boom. A salted fish appeared in the psychic beast array. Can this be considered a psychic beast? It's really pitted. Li Jexuan scratched his head. If the salted fish was psychic in the battle, he would not be dead. The second one. Boom. A cute little frog jumped out, and Li Jexuan stretched out his hand with excitement. Is it so lucky that I met the toad of Miaomu Mountain? Crack. The little frog swallowed the mosquito next to him. Well, it's really cheating. Even with that, Li Jexuan didn't like these 3 high-level psychic scrolls, so he patted the ground casually. Boom. A black slug fell to the ground with a sound of "bah." Please, if you want to pretend to be a slug, please come back with toothpaste. Li Jexuan reluctantly picked up the slug and wanted to cancel the psychic contract. But soon, he frowned. No, this is not a slug. Li Jexuan raised his finger. This is a blood-sucking leech. More importantly, if it weren't for Li Jexuan to see with his own eyes, the body and the chakra would not feel the existence of this leech, which means that this blood-sucking leech has the effect of shielding the chakra. If it is secretly thrown on the enemy, it is also a good weakening method. Not bad. Li Jexuan left the psychic contract and sent the blood-sucking leech back to the psychic space. Boom. When another shot was taken, a Sharpei wearing a ninja headgear suddenly jumped out. Ah. You are not a member of the Hajimu clan, why can you channel me out? This turned out to be the Ninja Dog clan of the Hagiki clan generation contract. Can even other psychic beasts be summoned? It's really random enough. Li Jexuan waved his hand to make the shinobu disappear and took the last scroll. Boom. The golden wings are nearly 100 meters wide, the hideous hooks and claws flicker with cold light, and fresh blood is dripping slowly on the golden red beak. Dapeng bird. What a hideous guy. However, I seem to disturb it eating. Jia. The golden Dapeng bird screamed sharply, the high-pitched voice almost turned into a sonic attack. Does this guy know how to speak human words? It's really bad. Li Jexuan patted the ground helplessly, blood bond spiritism. Hiss. Shinya jumped out arrogantly, the huge snake head swaying from side to side, ready to choose someone to eat at any time. Boss Jia-zan, who do I want to eat this time? Li Jexuan smiled and pointed to the sky. I think you are both psychic beasts, should you be able to communicate? Seeing the golden gleaming Dapeng bird, Shinya instinctively shrank her neck, baring her teeth and grinning. Boss Jia-zan, I'm a little scared. Really timid. Li Jexuan angrily slapped the snake's head. I wasted your name as the first fierce beast in Longdedong. Shinya lay pitifully in the corner. After Nilin was pulled out, I have become a good citizen. Well, you are only responsible for translation, and I will restrain it. Shinya nodded pitifully, and after listening to the affirmative translation for a long while, it said you interrupted its eating and brought it to this tattered place. You are dead. Hey, my temper is pretty big. Li Jexuan waved his hand disdainfully. What else did it say? It also said that if you knelt down and surrendered immediately and offered 100 animals, it wouldn't be impossible to let you go. Li Jexuan nodded slightly, and it seemed that this big pung bird had been supported by humans. But, did you get the wrong object? 10 minutes later, Dapeng bird knelt on the ground with a swollen nose and begged for mercy. Li Jexuan withdrew his fist in satisfaction. It looks like you are still witty. What if you don't know what to do? Then use spiritism to kill him. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded towards Shinya. Don't forget the binding force of spiritism on spirit beasts. Gudong. Shinya swallowed fiercely, and became scared involuntarily. Fortunately, he didn't have a stubborn resistance. Seeing that you performed well this time, this thing rewards you. Li Jexuan casually threw the psychic beast evolution pill into Shinya's mouth, and Shinya swallowed it without even looking. Are you afraid that I will poison you? Shinya grinned and flattered. As long as the master gives it, I can take the poison. However, before the voice fell, Shinya's red face turned green in an instant. What? As if experiencing the pain of giving birth, Shinya roared heartbreakingly. Seeing this, the Dapeng bird on the side licked his mouth in misfortune. Let you be a dog, licking to the end, nothing. Li Jexuan was also a little confused. This pill was also the first time he had obtained it. He wouldn't really kill Xinyao. At this moment, Xinyao's head suddenly heard the sound of tearing cloth. Xinyao's blood-red scales broke apart inexplicably, and a small pointed horn came out. This snake-like water dragon? Li Jexuan's eyes widened in surprise, but it seemed that the transformation was not complete enough, at most it was half the level. Strength, powerful power is coming out. Xinyao twisted his body excitedly, and the small horn above his head fiercely split a flash of lightning, turning a small hill into a charred wasteland. Dapeng Nao's eyes widened in surprise. Originally, Xinya's strength was far inferior to it, but it became so powerful just by taking a pill, and it was also afraid of family changes. This is too exaggerated. When a licking dog, lick to the end, you have everything you need. Xinyao smiled happily and knelt down beside Li Jexuan, panting like a dog. At this moment, Dapeng bird laid down his dignity. Is it bad to be a licking bird? Sending the two psychic beasts back to the psychic beast space, Li Jexuan took out the last thing. Scroll of experience. This is not the first time Li Jexuan has used this gadget. He opened the scrolls, and Hokage Rock came into view. This time, is it in Konoha? His consciousness gradually blurred, and then opened his eyes. Li Jexuan was already standing in a brand new Konoha. Different from the new style buildings decades ago, it seems that this time is still in the Naruto period. Li Jexuan raised his eyebrows involuntarily when he looked at ordinary people who were building houses around him. But, such a peaceful environment, completely I can't see which plot it is. For a while, Li Jexuan couldn't figure out anything. In that case, I have to do something. Li Jexuan touched his wallet and said, when you come to Konoha decades later, you must try eel ramen. God knows that when Hokage is not over yet, how many jokings have imagined Uncle Eel is the ultimate boss, and even today, some people can't let go of this stock. Of course, the most important thing is to try the eel ramen that Naruto loved in his life. How delicious will it be? The familiar red letters on white cloth and the lanterns of eel are so nostalgic. Lifting the curtain, Uncle Eel and his beautiful daughter stood behind the counter as always. Little guest, what would you like to eat? Big bowl of ramen. Not long after, the ramen was delivered to the front. In a really big bowl, the strong noodles are mixed in the golden yellow soup, wafting with attractive luster and fragrance. The plump barbecued pork is thick and tender. The crab feet sticks are also a treasure in the ramen, plus half a noodle. Invincible marinated egg. Even Li Jexuan, who is accustomed to eating celestial delicacies, couldn't help but yelled, "Oh, wash. One more bowl." Li Jexuan raised his hand high. There is no way, eel ramen has such charm. However, at this moment, a special chakra passed. This is nine-tailed chakra. Li Jexuan's eyes widened, and getting closer, is it Naruto? Thinking of this, Li Jexuan took 1,000 taels and left the ramen shop decisively. Before solving the problem of Kyuubi chakra, any move close to Naruto is very dangerous. God knows whether Kyuubi will come out directly and kill Li Jexuan. Hello, little guest, your big bowl of ramen. Uncle Eel picked up the silver tael and scratched his head in doubt. Why do you use such ancient coins to pay the bill? Now they are all antiques. At this time, Naruto also walked to the ramen shop with constipation, and his stomach was a little weird since just now. However, when Naruto saw the green-hat uncle who hesitated at the door of eel ramen, he naturally said, "Hello, uncle, what are you doing?" "I am hesitant to enter this store. Is it delicious here?" Uncle Green Hat replied casually. "Is your stomach uncomfortable?" "Nothing." Naruto scratched his head suspiciously. His stomach was a little bit painful just now, but now he is better again. "Uncle, Yale is the best ramen shop." "Is that so? Then I will try." Naruto and Uncle Green Hat walked into the ramen shop together. Is it this story? Master of Mechanism Shuaning. In the Naruto story, there are few that have the ability to destroy Konoha. What's more special is that Kyuubi relies on chakra, Pen relies on the Eyes of Reincarnation, and Shuaning only uses the Detonation Talisman to destroy Konoha. It's really interesting. Li Jexuan turned and left. There is still a period of time before the plot officially begins. During this time, he still has a lot of things to do. For example, go to Metkai. It's not hard to find the mentors and apprentices of Metkai and Shaoli, because these two mentors and apprentices often initiate training aimed at the entire Konoha village. Oh, you said that the two tight-fitting perverted ninjas, they said today that they are going to do some one-handed handstand training around the village. They are really crazy. The vegetable seller made no secret of her mentorship to Metkai. Disdain. Lee Jexuan smiled and left, turned around and threw the vegetables he had just bought into the trash. It really is the style of the Mat family. Metkai and Shaoli have just started a day of training. They stand upside down and go around the village with one hand. They can do a leapfrog and go around the village in 3 hours. However, a small figure suddenly stopped in front of Metkai. Metkai bypassed Lee Jexuan indifferently, but Lee Jexuan always stood in front of him. Are you Brother Metkai and Uncle Lee? The childish voice looked very cute. Brother Metkai, Uncle Little Lee. Shaoli and Metkai were dumbfounded. After a while, Metkai laughed loudly. It seems that my youth is far from over. Shaoli was not convinced and shook his head. Why do you call his brother instead of my uncle? Because my grandfather is also the grandfather of Brother Metkai. Lee Jexuan smiled and shrugged. So I can only call Brother Metkai. At this time, Metkai understood. Lee Jexuan is not here to say hello, but to find relatives. But, my dad died a long time ago, it shouldn't be. Metkai was puzzled. His dad has died for so many years, why is there such a small child? No, to be precise. My father is Uncle Matt Day's half-brother, and I am one half of your cousin. Lee Jexuan, who was also at a loss, was able to clarify such a complicated relationship, but Metkai still didn't believe it. I remember my dad said that Grandpa Medway was dead when he was very young. Grandpa Medway didn't die, it's just that Grandma stayed abroad. Lee Jexuan raised his fist and made a fighting start gesture. It's useless to say more, you will understand if you fight. Hearing this, Metkai subconsciously refused. I can't fight with a child like yours, you may be injured. 8-door Dunjia, the third life is open. Boom. The light green chakra steam is surging. Lee Jexuan grinned, 8 white teeth gleaming. Brother Metkai, what were you talking about? 8-door Dunjia. Metkai was frightened from ear to ear. This kid has opened his life. Shaoli on the side widened his eyes at a loss. A 2-year-old kid has already learned how to live. When did he learn it? 12, 13. Seeing that the two of them had not been moving, Lee Jexuan grinned and said, does it feel too boring? Then I will add a little bit. Open the wound door. Lee Jexuan smiled and waved to Metkai. At this level, Brother Metkai will find it interesting too. So, you have a 2-year-old brother. In the Naruto office, Tsunade looked at Metkai with a weird look. This was the most absurd report she had heard in so many years. Your grandfather who died young in his 20s left you half a cousin. Have you carefully verified his identity? As Hokage, Tsunade's consideration is more comprehensive. You can't go wrong. He not only knows the 8 doors Dunjia, but also knows the secret herbal formula of our Mat family. Metkai nodded excitedly. More importantly, his physical talent is particularly good. This is definitely our children of the Mat family. But, I don't think he looks good with you at all. Tsunade looked at the handsome and cute boy in the photo, and then at Metkai's thick eyebrows and face. Jia Xuanjin said he is like his grandmother. Metkai argued for reasons. It's not impossible. Tsunade nodded thoughtfully. What's more important is that for a peerless genius who can open the wound door at just 2 years old, no shinobu will be willing to send out as an undercover. Okay, I see, I will arrange for him to enroll as soon as possible. In a word, Lee Jexuan returned to Hokage Elementary School gloriously. Although he didn't want to waste time with a group of little kids, he came to Konoha nowadays, only a legal identity would allow him to do so. Otherwise, the all-pervasive dark parts and roots will soon discover his details. As for choosing to enter the Ninja Academy, naturally there is an important thing to do. Is it the Academy's lounge? Lee Jexuan slowly walked into the lounge in the plot. As if on the wooden floor like a swimming pool, there was an elderly person who was installing a kunwu training stake. Xuaning coincidentally met Xuaning to install the mechanism. Lee Jexuan pretended to smile and said, Grandpa, what are you doing? This is a wooden stake for practicing kunai. Xuaning smiled and nodded towards Lee Jexuan. If you secretly practice kunai, you can get praise from the teacher. Illusion. The faint chakra flowed in the air, slowly blurring Zan Neng's face. However, Li Jexuan smiled and took out 6 kunai, and threw it out in 6 different directions at the same time. Ding ding ding. With continuous clashing sounds, each kuwu collided with the wall and turned back and collided again, and finally nailed the surroundings of the mysterious energy into a circle like raindrops. Kunai is such a thing, it seems that there is no need for cultivation. Quote. Zan Neng was silent, turned and left. Looking at the brand new kuwu training pile, Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. If I remember correctly, the center of this kuwu training pile was the switch that detonated Konoha. But because of Naruto, Xuanning gave up revenge and chose to use his own arrangements for decades to play the last treasure hunt with Naruto. What a kind old man. Li Jexuan gently opened the wooden stake and reconnected the short-circuit detonator. However, I can only disappoint you. Experience task. The painstaking effort of the master of the organization. Quest content. Detonate the detonating charms scattered throughout Konoha and Naruto, destroying Konoha. Task reward. 10,000 points, the organ ninjutsu of the organ master Zan Neng. This is the first time that Li Jexuan's purpose and mission are the same, and it is not easy. Putting the reconnected detonator back to the stake, Li Jexuan walked out of Konoha silently and summoned Shinya. Hiss. Shinya humbled her head. Master, is there anything to call me? Can you go back to Longdi Cave now? Shinya said after a moment of induction, although it's a little weird, I can go back. Obviously, Shinya hadn't discovered that this place was no longer the original world. Li Jexuan squinted his eyes and smiled. Now take me back to Longdi Cave, I have something to talk to the White Snake Immortal. Hearing this, Shinya couldn't help but persuaded. Master, Immortal White Snake was almost sucked up by you last time. It will take another 50 years to recover. 50 years from now, although the world is different, the attributes of chakra have not changed. As soon as Shinya returned to Longdi Cave, he couldn't help but stunned. What's going on here? It was obviously not like this 10 minutes ago. This is not the Longdi Cave that used to be. As for the White Snake Immortal, naturally it is not the White Snake Immortal you know. As for the new White Snake Fairy, Jia, how long has no one been here? The White Snake Immortal bit Li Jexuan in one bite and injected a large amount of natural energy into it. However, the familiar Li Jexuan didn't even wrinkle his brows, and successfully sucked the White Snake Fairy into a snake. The silver scales of the Jiao Shanren mode have become more shiny. Tell me, how can I find Dashawan? Fairy White Snake murmured with fear on his face. You must find Wanshi, he is the psychic beast of Dashawan, and only he can lead you to find Dashawan. Are you 10,000 snakes? In the Longdi Cave, except for the 5 high-level snakes, the White Snake Fairy, Shinya and the White Snake Sanji, the others are ordinary psychic snakes. And Wan Snake is the leader of these psychic snakes. It can be said that under the 5 snakes, the noble existence above the 10,000 snakes. This is not in vain to pay the price of 100 lives every time Dashawan uses Wanshi. But, Boss Shinya, the arrogant Wan Snake nodded and bowed like a chicken when he saw Shinya in the past. Why are you free to come to me today? Okay, Shinya frowned. Do you not welcome me? Wanshi shook his head quickly and apologized. Absolutely not. I welcome you as long as Mr. Shinya is willing to stay. Humph, let you go. Shinya gently shook his head and let go of Wan Snake. But precisely because of this, it has aroused Wanshi's suspicion. Boss Shinya can't talk so well, it's impossible to stop without breaking my tail at this time. Wanshi quietly nodded to one of his men. Go and see below, Master Shinya is at home. After giving the order, Wanshi turned his head very sensibly. By the way, Lord Shinya, what can I do to help? We are looking for Oshimaru, the ninja who signed a contract with you. Li Jexuan squinted his eyes. You should be able to find him. Wanshi nodded affirmatively. It's okay, but why should I do this? Nani? Shinya stood up furiously. Are you kid looking for death? Don't pretend, you fake teeth. Wanshi smiled and gave way. A huge red giant snake jumped out, roaring violently. Who is it, who dares to pretend to be Uncle Shinya? This guy Wanshi actually found Shinya from this world. For a moment, Jiao Shinya and Shinya looked at each other and were stunned. Roar, what kind of magic do you stupid snake use? Xinya roared and sprayed venom everywhere, trying to petrify Zhao Xinya. Seeing this, Zhao Xinya decisively chopped himself into coke with a lightning strike. It's a wolf snake, kills itself. Now that 2 Xinya die and 1 is dead, the question of true or false is not important. Looking at Xinya's corpse, Wan Shou tremblingly connected with Da Shi Wan. Da Shi Wan, I was blocked by someone in my hometown. Someone called you by name and came to cover me. Da Shi Wan replied. You are not bragging, saying that in your hometown, are you carrying a handle? Wan Snake's grievance reply. No one resists the handle, I resist. If someone resists, I will be responsible for resisting. Although contemptuous, but after all, he is his favorite psychic beast. A 2-year-old child. Dashi Maru was a little backed for a while. Why did he choose such an unbeatable psychic beast? Oshimaru, because of the death of both parents, died of fear, and later because of a piece of white snake shedding skin to get a chance, the undead ninja who is proficient in curse seal and reincarnation. Every time Li Jexuan said, Oshimaru's face changed. When Li Jexuan finished saying the name of the dish, the pale snake face of Dashi Wan had turned into iron blue. Who are you? What do you want? No, Dashawan, you always get the priority wrong. Li Jexuan grinned, it's not what I want, but what you want. What do I want? Destroy Konoha and kill 3 generations, what is your purpose? Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. Don't tell me, you are for revenge. You are not such a narrow-minded person, everything you do is just for eternal life. Dashi Wan suddenly widened the eyes of the snake. He found that Li Jexuan's understanding of him had deepened his bones, and even his thoughts could be understood. Don't be surprised, I watched you grow up. The 3-year-old baby said so seriously to an old man, funny and weird. But Dashawan believes that Li Jexuan's words are true. I want Konoha's secret technique. Oshimaru gritted his teeth. I have never regretted defecting to Konoha. I just hate the 3 generations for preventing me from studying those wonderful forbidden techniques. Sure enough, if it was only to kill 3 generations, Dashawan would never be so troublesome. Only the secret technique of immortality can make him stop. Very well, I will give you this opportunity. Li Jexuan squinted his eyes. In these few days, Konoha will be destroyed, and a large number of Konoha ninjas will be attracted to leave by the joint exercises in Takanen village. By then, Konoha will be left alone. Speaking of this, Li Jexuan grinned lightly. You won't even be unable to win Tsunade. Among Sannin, Tsunade is undoubtedly the weakest on paper. Regarding the betrayal of his wife, Li Jexuan said that, except for the flawless Tsunade, any Tsunade that has been tainted by the cut and has been peeped by Jilai as a passerby. Dashi Wan grinned and said, I will settle her. In that case, see you then. Li Jexuan smiled and waved to Dashawan, then turned and left Longdadong. In the next few days, the plot developed as usual. The relationship between Naruto and the old man Xuanning is getting better and better. However, at this time Anbu was already eyeing him. The old man Xuanning deliberately made his own hands and feet. For a person who has not much time, the treasure hunt of the same Nai people is his most important thing. But, Li Jexuan stood on the Hokage rock, and roughly thrown in nearly 100 detonating charms. Although I don't know where the old man Zan Nang replaced the detonating charms with inferior ones, Li Jexuan only needs to add a fire to it. In Konoha village, the smoke slowly rises, and the plot is officially on track. In Konoha no Mori, the old man Xuanning was caught by Anbi. Through self-destruction and suspended animation, escape into the Hokage rock through the tunnel to hide. In the end, exhausted in the treasure hunt and died of serious illness. But this time, the old man Xuanning has no such good luck. Who? Inside the gloomy Hokage rock, Zan Nang's eyes widened in horror. He couldn't imagine that there was someone hiding in the hiding place he chose. Uncle Xuanning, long time no see, you seem to have changed your look. Li Jexuan smiled and walked out of the shadow. It's you. Zan Nang's eyes widened in fear. This child always gave him a very strange feeling. What on earth do you want to do? I should have asked you this sentence. Right, Uncle Xuanning, the detonating charms in the village and in the Shadow Rock are all yours, the master of the mechanism Xuanwang. Li Jexuan whispered. Xuanning couldn't help but startled. However, in this soft sound, the giant snake swallowed it in one bite in the shadow. Zan Nang is dead, but the storyline doesn't need him anymore. The incident is still fermenting. The missing architectural design drawings and mysterious acting skills made Tsunade like in the plot, issuing an alert, sending almost all the ninjas in the village out to defend the border. Naruto, Shikamaru and others continued to be responsible for investigating the truth behind Xuanning. Soon, Naruto and his team discovered that Zonnang had not died in the Konoha forest. The corpse was just a fake Zonnang prepared in advance. Later, they found that the drawings of the Ninja Academy were missing. After asking Tsunade for instructions, the search to investigate the Ninja Academy began. If nothing happens, the short-circuited starter will not cause an explosion anyway, but if you want to get the Book of Sealing, you must make sacrifices. Li Jexuan grinned lightly. Time and space have penetrated the wooden stakes without precision, detonating the tens of thousands of detonating charms that Zonnang has placed in the past few decades. Boom! The whole Konoha roared, as if 1,000 salutes were playing at the same time. Most of Konoha turned into a pile of rubble. It has started. When the explosion started, dust rolled on the border of Konoha. The Otonin troops of Onishimaru have been lurking here for 3 days. In the past 3 days, they have been looking forward to it, not having enough food, sleeping well. But now, it is finally here. Go to Konoha. Konoha's Zongnin and Shangnin were all sent to Takanin village to assist in defense. Konoha only had a few lower ninjas, and the defensive array was destroyed by the explosion. Dashimaru grinned grinningly. This is the closest he has taken Konoha. Oshimaru has attacked. The silent news made Tsunade, who was sitting firmly on the Daiyutai, jumped up involuntarily. Even if Taki Shinobu was fighting Konoha, she would not be so gloomy. But Oshimaru, this teammate who used to rely on each other. Dashimaru, after killing 3 generations, you did this again, never let you go. Tsunade took off the Hokage hat, and grabbed the door with his fist. Dashawan accidentally went back. At this time, 12 Xiaoqiang, thanks to Konoha's powerful intelligence system, Naruto quickly learned the news. Orochimaru. Naruto also gritted his teeth. Not only did you deceive Sasuke, you even did such a thing. I will definitely not let you go. Dashiwan, I'm back. Of course, the more important thing is that Oshimaru may also bring Sasuke with him, and he can bring Sasuke back to Konoha by the way. It can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. At this moment, pulling can't help, Naruto and Sakura decisively rushed out of the ruins and headed to the battlefield. As for the truth behind Zonnang, who cares what happened to him? The bomb has been bombed, so what else? The important thing now is Sasuke. Whether it's hatred or the real murderer behind the scenes, it can't match Sasuke's finger. Shikamaru frowned. Although he wanted to stay, he couldn't say anything. What Naruto decides, in this world, no one can stop it. Li Jexuan, who had all of this in his eyes, grinned slightly. Sure enough, as long as you follow the inertia of the plot, there will be no big deviations in the ending. As long as he hears the name of Oshimaru or Sasuke, Naruto will never be indifferent. As long as you use Naruto's character as the protagonist, you can achieve your goal. Li Jexuan understands a little more about the rules of the world of experience. When Naruto left, Li Jexuan went straight to Hokage's round office. After Tsunade left, only Silent and several Onbis who protected the sealed book were left here. Several Shangren, although difficult, but for Li Jexuan, it is not a hindrance. Fairy Jiao mode, the 8-gate Dunjia Jingmun open. The emptiness inside Konoha made Li Jexuan unscrupulous, and the turbulent chakra formed a horrible plume of smoke floating straight in the sky. Whose chakra is that? Ning Xi's eyes widened in surprise, and said in a panic, the amount of this chakra is far more than that of Shang Ren. What direction is that? Shikamaru had a bad premonition in his heart. Hokage office. Under his white eyes, Li Jexuan smashed half of the Hokage office with a punch, revealing the secret room hidden behind him, and the Book of Seal was safely enshrined in it. Who are you? Several Onbi firmly stood in front of Li Jexuan. You don't need to know any more. Li Jexuan slammed his fist fiercely, Bamin Dunjia towards the peacock. The raging fiery fist forced several Anbu back, and Li Jexuan grabbed the thick seal book, unavoidably surging for a while. In this Book of Seals, Konoha has recorded all the powerful ninjutsu for so many years. Naruto only learned the first one, and used it from the first episode to the last episode. For so long, Li Jexuan's greatest gain could not be worth this sealed book. Only, it seems a little too easy. Shulking snake hand. A gray spotted snake suddenly emerged from the ground and bit the first volume of the Book of Seals. Sure enough, it's not that simple. Li Jexuan squeezed the sealed book fiercely, and this little snake wanted to wrestle with him. He really couldn't help it. However, Li Jexuan ignored one thing unconsciously. In essence, the Book of Seal is nothing more than a scroll. Hiss. The cloth was torn, and the entire sealed book was torn in two under the struggle between the two sides. Maru held a half-volume sealed book, grinning sneer, "I knew you were not so kind. I said I was going to give it to you, do you believe it?" Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. "It seems that you don't believe it, but I don't believe it. Tsunade has already followed Oshimaru, and it seems that he has no chance to get the completed seal book. In this case, Shinya, do it." Li Jexuan's mind moved slightly, and Shinya staying on the Shadow Rock decisively triggered the detonation talisman. The entire Shadow Rock mountain range collapsed, and terrifying rocks swept towards Konoha like a sky collapse. "You are such a lunatic." Oshimaru's scalp was numb. He just wanted to destroy Konoha, but he never wanted to wipe Konoha off the map. "It's really uncomfortable to be called a lunatic by you." Li Jexuan sneered and curled his lips. "As for the remaining half-volume sealed book, I will get it back. As for now." Li Jexuan turned his head and looked at Naruto, who was rushing in the form of 9 tails. "I should say goodbye for now." Book of Seal. Unfolding the remaining half of the sealed book, Li Jexuan excitedly browsed 2 A-level secret techniques, and 3 S-level secret techniques. 5 high-level bands. The first forbidden technique is A-level illusion darkness. Illusory skills. This aspect is indeed my shortcoming. On the basis of the 3 major ninjas, Li Jexuan has the strongest physical skills, slightly weaker ninjutsu, and almost zero illusion skills. If you encounter an illusion master, you will undoubtedly become very passive. But Li Jexuan didn't know where to start for a while. Illusion was destined for its particularity from the beginning, complicated and difficult to learn. But Li Jexuan was not in a hurry. These powerful ninjutsu could not be learned overnight. Just as Li Jexuan had collected the sealed book, the captain of the dark part of the octopus mask knocked on the door and walked in. "Captain Yushuen, the newest mission assigned by Naruto-sama is in the Nation of Water, where Mizuna's attitude towards Konoha is ambiguous. I am considering a full-scale war against Nina. I hope you can go to find out. Is it the country of water?" Li Jexuan knew in his heart that most of this mission was for him to avoid the main battlefield of Shinin, and he was definitely the #1 kill target in Shinin. God knows how many sand shinobi hung his portrait on the head of the bed, and the first sentence when he gets up every day, "Yushuen, I will kill you." In order to kill Li Jexuan, work hard, work hard. High popularity is also an annoyance. Just so, take this opportunity to find Bai's family. After setting the schedule, Li Jexuan walked out of Konoha like an ordinary child. On the side, Oshimaru closely followed behind him. "Master, are we going to study the limits of blood succession next?" "Yes, blood succession boundary is actually a controllable thing that can be stolen." Li Jexuan squinted his eyes and sneered. "If the Bai people can be raised in captivity, the stable Bingdun bloodline will one day push me to one. Unstoppable. Thousands of miles of ice between the wave of hands, and 5 shadows between the fists. Master Jia-zan, I will definitely not let your expectations down." Dashi Wan made a fist passionately, expressing his willingness to dedicate everything to Li Jia-zan and clear all obstacles on the road to immortality for Li Jia-zan, such as these pirates blocking the way. The water country is a maritime country covered by large islands, and of course a special kind of pirate, which can also be said to be Japanese pirates. These pirates are driving small sea ships, drifting randomly on the beach, looting wherever they go, in order to maintain their lives. The savage pirate stopped in front of Li Jexuan and Dashi Wan, brandishing the knife recklessly. "Two brats with thin skin and tender meat, hurry up and hand over the money." Dashi Wan shook his wrist slightly, and just wanted to take out Kuwu to kill the stupid thief, but Li Jexuan reached out and stopped him. "No matter how you look at it, all of this is great." In Konoha, Li Jexuan had many things that he couldn't develop. Any act that violates justice may force Li Jexuan out of Konoha. In this way, the gain is not worth the loss. After he defected from Konoha, the most important reason is that after he defected to Konoha, he did not have a strong national backing to support him. In Naruto world, the reason why the 5 great ninja villages are the 5 great ninja villages is only because they are the 5 great nations. Except for the 5 major countries, all other countries are younger brothers. In this way, shinobu villages in other countries will naturally become younger brothers. That being the case, why not try to control the 5 powers? The fire country is the overlord of the 5 countries, with strong soldiers and strong horses, and orderly. Wind, soil, thunder, and the 3 kingdoms are equally good. Among them, there is only the country of water. The sea is wide and horizontal, and it is hard to deal with pirates. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. As long as these pirates are accepted, the country of water will have no secrets for me. Dashawan, it's time to try your test results these days. Li Jexuan grinned lightly. Dashawan nodded and agreed. Perceiving the danger, the pirate waved the machete angrily. You 2 brats, show me the king of Hades. A strange-looking poisonous snake fiercely drilled out of the cuff of the big snake pill, and bit on the pirate's ankle, leaving a broken mark of jade. What? The fangs tore the skin, and the severe pain penetrated deep into the bone marrow. The pirate unconsciously waved his arms, breaking a small tree with a thick wrist. Snake's Curse Seal. This is a lower-level curse seal developed by Oshimaru based on his own Heaven and Earth Curse Seal. Use the snake to cast the curse seal. You can add the curse seal to more people. But the price paid for this is the greatly weakened curse seal ability. However, this power is already powerful enough for ordinary people. The virulent poison of the curse slowly dissipated, and the thin pirate before got up with his muscles. The natural energy gave him a new life. And the power of the curse also told him who is his master. Well done. Li Jexuan nodded affirmatively, and the praised Oshimaru knelt to the ground in excitement. Must live up to the master's expectations. Dashimaru, one of the top geniuses in Hokage. When he can stand on his shoulders and learn from a young age, what will he achieve? Li Jexuan is looking forward to it. As for now. Chapter 71. The pirate's name is Shiraishi. He is only 18 years old, but he has been a pirate for 6 years. However, his status on the ship has not been high. Otherwise, he would not be sent ashore alone to rob the 2 children. But what he never expected was that these 2 children changed his destiny. Master, I belong to the Julie pirate group. Beishi knelt down in fear, the incomplete guyu on his ankles aching. In front of Oshimaru, he was like a frog stared at by a poisonous snake, and his instinctive fear made him shiver slightly. As for Li Jexuan, Beishi couldn't even think about it. In the food chain of the curse, if the big snake pill is a snake, then Li Jexuan is the flood dragon in the sky, and they are not in the same world at all. Julie pirates. Li Jexuan smiled and curled his lips, looking at the small sailing boat in the distance. Is that the boat? There is a small sailing boat floating on the sea not far away, which seems to be only the size of a dozen people at most. What a rudimentary pirate group. Hey, Shiraishi, what are you doing? Why did it take so long to deal with the 2 children? Maybe the delay was too long, and the people on the pirate ship looked a little impatient. Ha ha, Li Jexuan chuckled and shook his head. Since this giant pirate group is so enthusiastic, let's go over and take a look. The small sailboat was docked on the coast and seemed to be resting. When I saw the 3 of Beishi and Li Jexuan, the pirate who stayed on the deck to watch out was very impatient and rebuked. Beishi, why are these 2 little guys alive? And many more. The pirate on the deck widened his eyes in surprise. Shiraishi, what's the matter with your muscles? How is this possible? Shiraishi, who was still a bean sprouts 5 minutes ago, suddenly became a big muscle tyrant with a big waist. It is really incredible. Get your boss, I'll ask him to borrow something. Li Jexuan chuckled and waved. If he is interested, he can suffer less. What are you kid talking about? I killed you. The little pirate roared and rushed towards Li Jexuan. The roaring noise drew the entire Julie pirate group from the cabin. White Rock, what's going on? The leader Julie Yamazaki frowned and walked onto the deck. Since Beishi joined the group, although his combat power has been weaker, his victory is diligent and effective. But today, it seems that there have been some changes. Seeing Yamazaki, Shiraishi's gaze also fluctuated slightly, but he quickly shook his head firmly and said coldly, Yamazaki, I have joined Lord Osamaru's command, if you are interested. Before Shiraishi's words were finished, the surrounding pirates roared and interrupted Shiraishi's words. What nonsense are you talking about? You ungrateful fellow. Boss Yamazaki should have let you starve to death on the desert island. You dare to betray Boss Yamazaki and see if I don't kill you. For a moment, the crowd was enthusiastic, and the pirates slowly forced their swords towards Beishi. Ah ha ha ha. Seeing this, Oshimaru seemed to have encountered something funny, and she couldn't help but tremble slightly. This perverted laughter, Uncle Snake is really that Uncle Snake. Oshimaru, what are you laughing at? Hearing Lee Jexuan's question, Dashimaru bowed his head respectfully, and said with a wicked smile, I'm laughing at these stupid guys. I don't even know how to cherish such a precious life. The battle is on the verge. However, at this moment, a loud voice rang. You two, are you ninjas? The leader of the Julie pirate group recognized the identities of Lee Jexuan and Dashi Wan. Although it is too small, I can't think of other reasonable explanations other than the ninja. Yamazaki waved his hand to stop his actions. The ninja aloft, why should you come to trouble us like pirates? Yamazaki cautiously probed the Oshimaru, and the heavy sword in his palm stood guard in front of him. Troubleshooting, Oshimaru chuckled and clicked Shiraishi. I'm here to help you. Shiraishi has already gained powerful power, can't you see it? Stop bragging, kid. A huge mace slammed into the Dashawan. On the other hand, Dashimaru did not move, did not evade, nor counterattacked. Okay, what a ninja, just a kid. The pirate attacked with excitement, his eyes widened. Boom, a sturdy arm appeared in front of the mace, and steadily caught the powerful and heavy rod. White Rock. A group of pirates widened their eyes in surprise. This guy is obviously the weakest of the pirates, and they often laugh at his strength. But now, he unexpectedly took over the mace of the second master empty-handed. Seeing that the other pirates started, they all stepped forward to try to kill Shiraishi. But Shiraishi just grabbed the mace and swiped all the pirates around him. At this moment, the pirates were stunned. In just 5 minutes of effort, the weakest Shiraishi could actually beat 1 to 10, which was a big shock to them. Is it all the same as the kid said? For a time, people's hearts float. What did you do to Shiraishi? Yamazaki asked loudly. Having such a powerful force rashly will definitely not have side effects. A scream awakened the pirates. Yes, this must be a secret technique that consumes life. I have seen it in other places too, and died after a moment of eruption. I have to say that this Yamazaki has a few tricks. At such times of restlessness, one sentence can stabilize the military's mind. But, it's a pity. Oshimaru sneered disdainfully. Don't confuse the ninjutsu given to me by Master Yuxuan with those indiscriminate things. The power of the curse comes from Longdadong, one of the 3 holy places, and the natural energy is the purest chakra energy, without any side effects on the body. It's useless to say more. Beishi, defeat them for me. These pirates will not cry without seeing the coffin. With an order from Dashawan, Beishi did not hesitate. As if a tiger descended from the mountain, he knocked out more than a dozen pirates in 3 or 2. Go, my little cuties. Dashiwan opened his arms, and more than a dozen white snakes emerged from the sleeves and bit the pirates' ankles. What did you do to them? Yamazaki's eyes widened. These subordinates are all the wealth he has saved over the years. If they are all dead, the Julie pirates will have no meaning. Don't worry, these guys shouldn't all die. Dashimaru sneered and curled his lips, and took the 10 curse-printed snakes back into Longdi Cave. Won't all die. What? At this moment, a pirate's waist abruptly folded in half, dense curse seals crawling all over his body, and the convulsion caused by the severe pain made him lose consciousness. Yanhong blood slowly oozes out from all parts of the body, dyeing him into a blood man, and after a violent convulsion, he is completely dead. Tianma. Yamazaki roared in pain. Oh, this person is called Tianma. What a pity. Dashiwan stretched out his tongue and gently licked the air, as if he could taste death. Although Shuyin is an official plugin, it does not mean that there are no taboos. The only limit to the curse is the cruel survival rate. There is no 1 in the heavenly curse. The curse of the earth is 1 in 1,000. The man's curse seal is 1 in 100, as for the modified snake curse seal. The survival rate is only 1/5. It seems that the luck of this Tianma is not very good. Oshimaru smiled and nodded towards Yamazaki. On the road to pursue power, sacrifice is always required. I'll kill you. Yamazaki couldn't help it anymore, brandishing a huge heavy knife and rushed towards Oshimaru, but it was a pity that Shiraishi stood in front of him firmly. Shiraishi, if you don't let go, I will kill you. Yamazaki roared red. If he hadn't been a brother who had been with him for so many years, he would have killed Shiraishi alive, however. Yamazaki, you should get out of the way. Shiraishi grinned grinningly and grabbed the heavy knife. The curse seal spread all over his body, terrifying power emerged, and he threw Yamazaki into the sea. Ha ha ha, Yamazaki, you are far inferior to me, hurry up and get out. Beishi laughed arrogantly, and roared contemptuously towards Yamazaki in the sea. You want him to escape. Amount. Shiraishi choked suddenly, and knelt down and begged Oshimaru for mercy. Master, I was wrong. I shouldn't do these extraneous things. Well, it's a lot. Dashiwan smiled and curled his lips. Look at it, you're brothers. It's really unexpected luck. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. With a 1/5 survival rate, 10 people actually survived 5 people. Beishi, we also have this power, thank you. The 5 snake curse seal pirates climbed up from the deck excitedly. They could feel their unprecedented powerful power surging in their bodies. Strength is a poison that makes people fascinated. The host. The pirates bowed their heads to the Oshimaru. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. Oshimaru, you have become the leader too. Everything of the servant belongs to the master. Oshimaru bowed his head respectfully and chuckles, including life. You evil ninjas, I must kill you. Yamazaki climbed onto the deck, drew out his dagger, and rushed towards the Oshimaru. Evil ninja, you pirate who burns, kills and plunders, you really dare to say. Oshimaru looked at Shiraishi coldly. This is your last chance. Hearing this, Shiraishi shivered, gritted his teeth and stopped Yamazaki. Shiraishi, are you all crazy? Why are you stopping me? Yamazaki was already surrounded by his men. No, Yamazaki, you are the one who is crazy. Shiraishi grinned helplessly. I have already given you a chance, but if you don't cherish it, then I can't help it. 6 sharp blades flickered, and the pirate leader Yamazaki was cruelly divided by his own men. Next, who is the biggest pirate in the country of water? Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. He still understands the principle of capturing the thief first. As a pioneer, this curse seal bless the giant pirate group is enough. Beishi was the first to stand up and definitely said, if you say pirates, it must be the Kibao pirates. 7 treasure pirates. Yes, it is said that there are 7 powerful ninjas in this pirate group who are not weaker than the 7 powerful ninjas. Shiraishi said with some fear, and has 7 powerful ninjas. Isn't it weaker than the ninja 7? Li Jexuan chuckles disdainfully. If they really have such strength, then the 7 ninja swords are their names. As for the ninja, if he was afraid of a few swords, then Li Jexuan might as well commit suicide. Kibao Town. The sun is shining, the birds and the flowers are fragrant, and the town is thriving, a scene of prosperity and stability. This town is really good. Li Jexuan stretched out comfortably and bought a bunch of candied haws from the street, just like a tourist. However, Dashiwan followed Li Jexuan closely, looking like she was waiting. Relax, Dashiwan. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. It would be too hard if it keeps going like this. But, Dashimaru frowned and looked around with fear. There is a problem with this town. Killing intent. This town is full of weak or strong killing intents everywhere. But before Dashiwan could finish her words, Li Jexuan smiled and crawled into the restaurant next to her, and took out the silver ticket to consume it. The host, Dashiwan wanted to persuade again. Li Jexuan smiled and waved his hand. We have been under the eyes of others since we got ashore. It is not easy to find people in such a big town. Let them come to me. A whole day passed in the extravagant restaurant life, until the night was like ink, the door of the restaurant. It shut down suddenly, and almost at the same time, all the geishas around Li Jexuan left silently. It looks like, are you here? Li Jexuan smiled and sat up. 7 ninjas appeared in front of him silently. As the legendary pirate killer just a child? The leading Kibao pirate smiled and drew out a strangely shaped sickle, but the trouble that comes to us is your end. Pirate killer. This was the title that Li Jexuan came over this way. There were not hundreds of pirate groups destroyed, but 50, and even started a side mission. Regional task. Destroy the Kibao pirates. Quest content. As the leader of the pirates in the country of water, the Kibao pirates do everything they want to burn, kill and pillage. As a righteous ninja, it is your duty to destroy him. The responsibility of shit. If you dare not give me a reward, try. Task reward. A shadow level treasure chest. The title of Pirate Killer, 10,000 points. Shadow level treasure chest. When receiving this task, Li Jexuan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the legendary 7 treasure pirate was worth a shadow level treasure chest. You know, the tasks of rewarding shadow level treasure chests are all dangerous and never easy. Is this Kibao pirate group really amazing? Storm sighed. The weird sickle shaped like a ripple was swung down fiercely, and terrifying waves emerged out of thin air, sweeping towards Li Jexuan. Ha ha ha, what is the power of my shocking scythe? The first Kibao surged waves, laughing disdainfully. You kid, go to death with peace of mind. Before the waves were over, I choked. Li Jexuan in the immortal Jiao mode is like standing in a swimming pool, standing steadily among the waves, raising his eyebrows in doubt. It's just such strength, why is it worth a shadow level treasure box? Boy, how dare you look down on our 7 treasure pirates? The other 6 members also drew out various weapons and shot together. Suddenly, wind, fire, thunder and lightning appeared in turn. The level of excitement was comparable to the Spring Festival Gala. However, the strongest attack is no more than capable of crushing Li Jexuan's 3-layer defense. Together, these 7 people may have a superior strength. From this perspective, they can indeed be called the ninja swordsmen, the 7 in 1, if they occupy a position. The entire restaurant has been completely blown up, and Li Jexuan and the Kibao pirate rushed out of the ruins together. But as soon as he rushed out of the ruins, Li Jexuan was stunned. So that's it. The killing intent of Kibao town is everywhere. It is because this entire Kibao town is the den of the Kibao pirates. To be precise, the entire Kibao town is the Kibao pirates. The townspeople held weapons like a tide, and surrounded them on the 3rd and outer layers, and their amiable faces became hideous and terrifying during the day. Ha ha ha, no matter how powerful you are, can you still fight against the power of an entire town? Lang Jingtao laughed wildly and waved the turbulent sickle, prompting a terrifying tsunami tens of meters high. To escape to Luby. Using the earth flow wall to block the tsunami, Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. It seems that this shadow-level treasure chest is not easy to take. Master Jia Zan, what should we do now? After all, Dashimaru was too young, and the battle of tens of thousands of people made him uncertain for a while. If you can plant a curse seal, you can plant a curse seal, but you can't. Li Jexuan frowned and said coldly, then kill them all. With an order from Li Jexuan, Xinya, Dapeng Bird, and nearly 1,000 pirates gathered along the way swarmed out. With Li Jexuan's true power, killing the Kibao pirate can only take a few rounds. But what happened after the killing of the Kibao pirate was even more helpless. Of the tens of thousands of residents in Kibao town, only more than 2,000 people chose to submit. The remaining 8,000 people were swallowed by Xinya and Dapeng Bird. Killing one person is a crime, but slaughtering 1,000 people is a hero. This shadow-level treasure chest is not easy to take. Open the treasure chest. It is still a familiar scroll of primary experience, including an intermediate ninja, so luck. Needless to say, the scroll of experience is naturally used as soon as possible. I just don't know which plot will be involved this time. Open the scroll, it is still Konoha's building. Li Jexuan's consciousness gradually disappeared. Really back to a familiar place again. Li Jexuan got in as he looked at the Yil ramen with the red letter and white background in front of him. Big bowl of ramen. After eating a bowl of ramen, Li Jexuan could not find out that this was the story. Naruto was not there, Sasuke was not, and nothing happened around him. Li Jexuan couldn't even see a ninja who was a little familiar. It's really sunny and sunny. Walking out of a leap, Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. Since he didn't meet the characters in the plot, he wouldn't be in a mess without his identity certificate. But the words are not finished yet. Boom! The dark cloud covered the entire sky like a trick, and a violent thunder brewed in the dark cloud. Do I still have the blood of the crow's mouth? Li Jexuan's eyes widened involuntarily. This thunder can't hit people, right? Before the words fell, a thick thunder fell straight. Boom! Naruto's red office was directly exploded, and the flames were burning. Quote. Lee Jexuan was speechless. This was not because he thought he really had the blood succession boundary of Crow's Mouth, but because he remembered which plot it was, the pommel horse Yakumo plot that can be called the number 1 bug blood succession boundary of Naruto. Gudong. Thinking of this woman, Lee Jexuan couldn't help but swallowed hard. In theory, this woman can kill Ludao Madara in a second. God knows that Naruto's animation will produce such a bug with illusion ability. She is simply a monster of the magic pen Ma Liang and the Death Note. As long as it is her painting, as long as she wants, it can be turned into real. That is to say, if she paints the 6 spots on the canvas, and then paints the 6 spots to death, that Ludao Madara is dead. In a sense, this Kurama Yakumo is simply the author of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto. Just as Lee Jexuan was trembling, Shiraihong just happened to walk in front of him, mumbling that he must start to act. It seems that the plot has officially begun. But this time, Lee Jexuan was not prepared to do anything. Honestly, I retracted the ramen and ordered the second bowl of ramen. With the strength of Lee Jexuan's illusion technique is 0, to find the trouble of Kurama Yakumo, you don't need to think about it and know that you will die miserably. Opening a door will allow you to travel through the interstellar space and wander among the stars in the universe. No one can stand it. Lee Jexuan said that he would never mess around in this plot, and would not do anything. System, bring me a syringe. What am I going to do? That's nonsense. When encountering such a powerful blood succession boundary by Kurama Yakumo, if you don't try it, how can you be worthy of the infinite flow of the spirit of many predecessors who plucked their hair and died for food? Lee Jexuan scratched his head while sucking the ramen. Although I am willing to participate, no matter how I calculate, I am not an opponent of Kurama Yakumo. According to the plot, Kurama Yakumo's spirit will soon collapse completely and be dominated by the demons. When Hong tries to kill the inner demon, attack Yuri-Hong. Then Hong and Naruto were pulled into the illusion space and hung up to fight. But in the end, under Naruto's invincible mouth and guns, he killed his own demon and changed his evil spirits. I have to say that this is really a textbook-level Naruto story. If it fails, it will explode, and the 9-tailed chakra directly crushes it. If you can't win the explosion, you can just talk about it. Naruto's mouth and gun ability has been inherited from 3 generations, and even has the level of being better than Blue. After all, just relying on the mouth can make Nagato sacrifice himself and resurrect the Konoha ninja who was killed by himself before. It is equivalent to taking his own life to play a day trip for Konoha's ninja. This shows the horror of Naruto's mouth cannon. In that case, it is not impossible for Naruto to let Kurama Yakumo draw a needle of blood by himself. Thinking of this, Lee Jexuan chuckled and took out the previous needle tube, fiercely inserted it into the spine, and extracted the 9-tailed chakra sheng that was injected by the first generation. It really hurts. This seemed to pull out the pain of the spine alive, making Lee Jexuan weak. But now, I can meet Naruto. Lee Jexuan smiled and walked out of a joy. The reason why he pulled out his 9-tailed chakra was to meet Naruto. Naruto is not difficult to find, listen carefully, and the noisiest part of the village is undoubtedly confirmed. Rap it on me, I will never let Mr. Hong leave you. Naruto is still so enthusiastic, obviously having nothing to do with him, and still enthusiastically holding tickets. Lee Jexuan hid quietly and waited until Naruto was alone. The true dragon star in the sky, the child prodigy in the underground conjures the mystery, tells fortune-telling, and does not take a cent. Lee Jexuan grabbed Naruto. This big brother, I see your brows are frowning, and a sharp knife penetrates into your heart. There must be sorrow. Silent. Naruto was stunned. What did this 2-year-old kid say? Although I don't understand, there is a very powerful illusion inexplicably. I don't know how to be strong. What you want is this effect. Lee Jexuan smiled slightly, pulled Naruto onto the small bench and sat down, mysteriously said, I look at your face, you must have lost your father and mother in your childhood. Naruto was taken aback for a moment. When he talked about it, he remembered his parents who had never been masked. What a pity. Hearing this, Naruto was completely convinced. Look at you again, the sky is full and the ground floor is round. There must be some great weather in the daily harvest. Great weather. Naruto was slightly taken aback. You will surely be the 7th generation of Hokage in the future. Lee Jia said so eloquently that there was no lie in this sentence. But, why is it the 7th generation of Hokage? Naruto scratched his head with some doubts. The 5th generation is Grandma Tsunade, who is the 6th generation. Your mentor, Kakashi. In the arena, there is a trick of deception that is to clarify small numbers. For example, telling you that you won a lottery, 1,008,000. These 8,000 are small numbers that can defeat the enemy's psychological defenses. After all, such a rigorous and accurate figure should not be a lie to him. Even more frightening is that Lee Jexuan didn't lie to Naruto, what he said was the truth. Hearing this, Naruto's happy mouth couldn't close. This is the first time anyone is so sure that he can be Hokage. He immediately believed Lee Jexuan's words. With these 8 points, then we have to enter the topic. However, there was a little bump on the way you became Hokage. This little bump is the Kurama Yakumo you met. She is the direct disciple of teacher Yurihong's illusion. Lee Jexuan frowned and pinched his fingers slightly. According to my calculation is that her ability will destroy Konoha and kill everyone in Konoha. Upon hearing this, Naruto became nervous. He just saw Kurama Yakumo destroy the Naruto mansion with falling thunder, and he believed in Lee Jexuan's words. Naruto grabbed Lee Jexuan's hand. This little master, how do I crack it? How to crack? Lee Jexuan's right hand was beating slightly, so after a bit of mystery, the reason why this pommel horse Yakumo is terrible is because of her illusion talent. If her blood inheritance limit is extracted, there will be nothing wrong. Upon hearing this, Naruto scratched his head in confusion. However, I have never heard of anything that can extract the blood succession boundary. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Lee Jexuan stood up, stepped on the 7-star step, punched the 5-shaped fist, and took out the blood veins from his arms to extract the syringe. As long as you use this syringe, you can extract any blood inheritance boundary with just one needle. At this point, a cold voice suddenly rang. Where did the little liar come from? I lied to the village of Konoha. Neji Hyuga stood in front of Naruto with a look of disdain, and raised both palms defensively. Hyuga Neji. Facing the sudden disruptor, Lee Jexuan couldn't help but frown. If Naruto is a fool in the entire Hokage, then Niagara Ninki is the most stubborn one of the 12 Xiaoqiangs. The caged bird who believes in fate does not believe in any miracles. What? Upon hearing this, Hyuga Ninji widened his eyes and gritted his teeth and said, if it's just a deception and you are still young, I can let you go, but if it involves the reputation of the Hyuga clan, then it can't relax. Soft fist 64 palms in 8 diagrams. The pessimistic fatalism makes Hyuga Neji more important to his family's reputation than his own fate. However, snapped. Lee Jexuan easily grabbed Hyuga Neji's wrist, and sent him more than 10 meters away with just a light push. With Lee Jexuan's current strength, it was a bit bullying. So strong. Hyuga Ninji gritted his teeth. Although he was very reluctant to admit this, he knew that he was not the opponent of this 3-year-old. Who are you? Who am I? Lee Jexuan laughed loudly. I am the wind, the cloud, and everything in this world. I know the past and the future. I am the of this world. God. Hyuga Ninji curled his lips in disdain. I think you are crazy. As a god, you can't get angry. For the sake of image, Lee Jexuan smiled lightly, and stretched out a finger. Hinaga Neji, in the 4th ninja battle 10 years later, in order to protect Naruto Hinata, he died of the cuttings of Togo the technique. What are you talking nonsense? Hyuga Ninki was shocked. Undeniably, at a certain moment, his heart stopped beating. For Neji who believes in fatalism, he could feel vaguely that what Lee Jexuan said was true. But, little fairy, how could Ningxi die? Is there any way to crack it? Naruto sweated profusely and pulled Lee Jexuan. His name has changed from a young master to a little fairy. The method of cracking. Lee Jexuan chuckled and shook his head. The so-called Buddha's destined person, this big brother doesn't believe me at all, how can I help him crack it? Hearing this, the enthusiastic Naruto immediately became anxious, and grabbed Lee Jexuan. He doesn't believe it, I believe it, you can save him. After talking for a long time, Hyuga Neji didn't stop Naruto either. Lee Jexuan knew that the heat was almost there. Since Naruto brother said so, I will give you a face. Lee Jexuan reached out and took out the bleeding and then bound to extract the syringe. Here is a syringe that can perfectly extract the blood from the human body directly, and there is no any side effects. Speaking of this, Lee Jexuan looked at Neji Hyuga with disdain. Since this Neji Hyuga doesn't believe me, can you give it a try? Seeing this, Naruto almost involuntarily grabbed the needle and came to Hyuga Neji. Neji, you can try it. Hyuga Neji hesitated to insert the needle into his body. Twitching slowly, a stream of milky white viscous liquid slowly flowed out. Visible to the naked eye, Neji Hyuga's white eyes were quickly disappearing, gradually turning into normal black pupils. Even the bird curse in the cage on his forehead slowly disappeared. My white eyes disappeared. Hyuga Neji tried to open his eyes, but besides turning his face into a monkey butt, he couldn't even see through a piece of paper. This syringe actually perfectly draws out the blood of the Hyuga clan. How is it? Lee Jexuan sneered. Do you believe it now? Hyuga Ninki was stunned for a while, and suddenly raised his head. How can I get back my bloodline limit? You still want to take it back? Lee Jexuan frowned. You should understand that the bird curse seal in the cage is attached to the blood of the Hyuga family. It can not only limit your ability, but also determine your life and death. If you live as an ordinary ninja like this, you will get rid of the fate of the caged bird and gain precious freedom. The syringe can change the blood, but not the mind. Slowly pushing the syringe, Neji Hyuga became the white-eyed genius boy again. It's just that his attitude towards Lee Jexuan could not help but be much better. What should I do? Naruto held the syringe tightly, his palms covered with sweat. It's about the future, so he can't help but be nervous. You have to let Kurama Yakumo take the initiative to withdraw his blood from the boundary. Only in this way can you protect Konoha. Lee Jexuan smiled and turned to leave. Remember, that syringe can only be used 5 times, no matter if it is the blood of the boundary or the bloodline. Some things that still live in the body can be extracted. After that, the instantaneous technique was activated, and Lee Jexuan flew to the outskirts of Konoha village. For a while, Naruto, do you believe what he said? Hyuga Neji was at a loss. Although he always felt weird, he didn't know where the problem was. Naruto grinned and said, don't worry, Xiao Shanren must be a good person, and those who like ramen are not bad guys. Can even the monsters in the body be drawn out? Naruto touched his stomach unconsciously. Hey, Naruto, you kid wouldn't want to draw me into that syringe. Nine-tailed Chakra roared and grabbed the iron gate. If you dare to do that, I will eat you. Reassure, I won't do this. Naruto smiled and squeezed the syringe tightly. He is no longer what he used to be, so he won't care about what the fox demon said. Before he knew it, he and Kyuubi had become friends. Lee Jexuan shook his head lightly. Even though he had the intention of giving Naruto a trick, the will of this world really did not let him succeed so easily. However, there is always a chance. Body of Asura. As night fell gradually, a small figure moved around in the forest, quickly advancing towards the distant lights. Is this the Satomi Autumn Villa? As soon as Naruto jumped off the tree, he accidentally touched a hidden warning trap. Jingle bell. The silver bell rang, and the Onbi and the medical staff in Satomi Zichiu Villa frowned slightly. Someone touched the trap. Who was it? It's me. Naruto pretended to be red, and naturally waved out of the forest. Let me talk to her alone, 10 minutes will do. Naruto walked into the villa under Onbi's watch, without arousing any suspicion. It's really amazing, Naruto. In the forest, Lee Jexuan chuckled and shook his head. Such an easy invasion can only be done by the protagonist. In memory, Naruto sneaked into it to investigate Kurama Yakumo's secrets. This time it was to extract her blood, but no matter what the purpose, Naruto's invasion is doomed to end in failure. Pushing away from the studio, a straight light pierced the red in the darkness. Even Naruto, who had only turned into red, almost thought he was dead. My heart. Not long after, Naruto screamed and fell out of the window, and disappeared with a bang in the transformation technique. This is the pommel horse 8 clouds. Lee Jexuan squinted and sneered. Even the protagonist, in the face of this ability that can be called a bug, will be smashed. Lee Jexuan turned his head and left, and the following plot is no longer necessary. Next, the unsuspecting Naruto was numb with a dose of Anbu. The drunk medicine was completely brought down. Woke up in the hospital the next day. After a day of fighting with Sakura, he waited for the final battle with Kurama Yakumo. It's really exciting. If you don't give up being a ninja, I will seal your ability. In the gloomy classroom, Hong warned Kurama Yakumo. Naruto rushed to try to stop. However, at this moment, boom, boom, the loud sound of gongs and drums completely awakened Naruto in his sleep. Sakura. Naruto was shocked, and hurried out of the hospital. Now is not the time to talk about this. But Naruto, who had just woke up, was quickly brought down by Hong with illusion skills on his way to Satomi's autumn villa. Poor Naruto, just woke up and was brought down again. And at this moment, it really started. What a sincere family. Lee Jexuan, who was hiding in the dense forest, grinned and chuckled. It's another family that does not hesitate to destroy its own tribe for the sake of Konoha's prosperity, the Kuruma clan. Nearly 10 Kurama illusionists breached Satomi's autumn villa, tried to take Kurama Yakumo away, and tried to stop it by killing her. However, they obviously overestimated their abilities. Whether it is Kurama Yakumo or the Metkai group who came to rescue Kurama Yakumo, they are not opponents, and they will be solved in twos or twos. Let's go. Naruto tried to return to the village for treatment with Kurama Yakumo on his back. However, what they didn't know was that from the moment Naruto tried to pick up the pommel horse Yakumo, they all fell into illusion. An extremely huge multiplayer illusion. The thick fog and the dilapidated village, as if the whole village had been attacked by a nuclear bomb and became dilapidated. No matter what, take them to the hospital first. Hong's injuries must be dealt with immediately. After Haruno Sakura settled Hong and Kurama Yakumo, he tried to find medicine. After dispersing, Houndazuka and the others encountered a giant python. Naruto and Kurama Yunhai encountered the hell of fire. Haruno Sakura opened the door and fell into the endless galaxy. The terrifying blood succession limit makes Kurama Yakumo almost omnipotent. The plot continues in an orderly manner. But in Lee Jexuan's eyes, Naruto and the others were just lying quietly on the lawn. Only Uraihong was led into the studio of Kurama Yakumo. Pushing open the wooden door, it was as if the weird world of Van Gogh's Starry Sky appeared in front of the red. The broken floor was suspended in the sky, and Kurama Yakumo quietly smeared the drawing board. Teacher Hong, what do you think of my painting? Kurama Yakumo calmly smeared the drawing board and wiped off the red portrait on the drawing board. Like a trick, Hong's body followed the drawing board and disappeared a bit. However, at this moment, Naruto rushed in through the shadow clone. Naturally, as in the plot, all the truth about Kurama Yakumo was told. But unlike the past, what makes Kurama Yakumo want to stop is. Naruto smiled and took out a needle. Sister Yakumo, with this needle, you can draw out your blood inheritance boundary, and then you will be safe. Draw blood and continue to limit. Is there such an operation? Kurama Yakumo was stunned. He hesitantly took over the needle, gritted his teeth and just wanted to plunge into his body. An evil spirit arm that seemed to come from emerged from her self-portrait and grabbed her arm. Stop it, Kurama Yakumo. The terrifying demon drilled out of the self-portrait, snatching the needle from Kurama Yakumo's hand, and asked puzzledly, why kill me? I've been helping you. Who are you anyway? After Kurama Yakumo was probated, he washed white for a second and questioned the monster in front of him in the White Lotus mode. I'm you, Kurama Yakumo. The devil grinned and grabbed Naruto. I am the subconscious mind generated deep in your heart. I am another you. This is unconsciousness, Hong Yi said in a serious way. The first time I found this monster, it was. Simply speaking, it is schizophrenia. Lee Jexuan, who was hiding in the distance, curled his lips disdainfully. It's so complicated, isn't it just a story about a fine girl? Under the pressure of his family, the superb illusion talent Kurama Yakumo has a second consciousness, which is called Kurama Yakumo for short. The evil pommel horse Yakumo knows the existence of the master, so he has been waiting for the opportunity to lurch until now it completely broke out. It's a pity that after the master character of Kurama Yakumo made Naruto and Hong Sanyan attacked, he regained consciousness. Brown sugar water, donkey hide gum jujube, is indispensable. Putting down the dignity and licking it for several years, it is not as good as the male who cannot forget. I'll kill you. The green pommel horse Yakumo pinching Naruto's neck is about to kill him, but he can't wait for him to crush Naruto. Puff. The needle tube was inserted into the body, and the pommel horse Yakumo abruptly drew out his own blood. Ah, what did you do? The evil pommel horse Yakumo's eyes widened in horror, but before he could make any movements, an unstoppable force sucked him into the needle. When everything disappeared, Shiraihong's body returned to its original state, and Van Gogh's starry sky world became a bright studio, and even the gloomy paintings showed a smile. It's really touching. Little fairy, you are here. Naruto widened his eyes with joy, smiled and scratched his head and asked, why are you here? It's so naive, Naruto-san. Li Jexuan smiled and put the needle into the system space. Of course I'm here to reclaim what belongs to me. Ahaha, you said that the needle is really easy to use, thank you. Naruto was half talking, suddenly froze, and raised his eyebrows suspiciously, but there is still Yakumo's blood inheritance limit, and the demon. Speaking of this, Li Jexuan scratched his head a little. What a headache, Naruto. Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. If I kill that demon, I won't be able to get such a powerful blood succession boundary. If I don't kill him, this guy is more or less a hidden danger. Fish and bear's paw, really can't have both. Upon hearing this, Naruto finally reacted, gritting his teeth and roaring. You mean, you did so much, in fact, to get the blood inheritance limit of the pommel horse Yakumo? Of course, Li Jexuan shrugged and chuckled, keep on being stupid, you can be the 7th generation of Hokage. Li Jexuan was telling the truth, but Naruto thought Li Jexuan was teasing him. It turns out that he has always been deceived by being a big fool. In Naruto, among the things Naruto hates most, the first is to hurt Sasuke, the second is to deceive him, and the third is to question his dream of becoming Naruto. It is a pity that Li Jexuan seems to have taken up all these things. Li Jia Zongguang killed 2 Sasuke directly or indirectly, and deceived Naruto several times. As for questioning Naruto's Naruto dream, Li Jia Zan really never did. However, Naruto doesn't think so. You fellow, I must kill you. Naruto roared and slowly changed, his nails turned into sharp beast claws, and the fiery red chakra tail beasts were all over his body. Nine-tailed Naruto. Seeing this, Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. Life and death are indifferent, just do it. After speaking, Li Jexuan found a bench and sat down quietly. He couldn't be beaten. Even if he was beaten one day, the 6 immortals would come out and pinch him to death. In that case, it's better to be more direct and wait quietly for death. It's not the first time I died anyway. Li Jexuan was very calm. Naruto, calm down. Naruto, learn to control your own demon, just like you told me just now, control this power. Hong and Kurama Yakumo tried to use a mouth cannon to persuade Naruto. However, Naruto, who is the protagonist, doesn't eat this at all. Opening your mouth is a tail beast jade that annihilates everything. Kill you. Nine-tailed Naruto roared. Facing the terrifying tail beast jade, Li Jexuan calmly opened his arms and hugged the sun. This is the real mouthpiece. Om. A small mushroom cloud rose up, and Li Jexuan, who was not involved in the plot, was unable to trigger the mission this time, so he received the box lunch. When Li Jexuan opened his eyes again, nothing changed, except for the extra needle filled with the starry sky. However, in Li Jexuan's view, the harvest this time is no less than the half-sealed book. Lifting the needle, Li Jexuan didn't hesitate, pierced directly into his body, and slowly pushed. The blood from the strange starry sky poured into Li Jexuan's body. But this time, unlike before, there was no pain. Li Jexuan slowly opened his eyes, and the guest room in Kibao Town had turned into a starry sky. Various paintings float in the strange starry sky, among which a self-portrait of Kurama Yakumo is just in front of Li Jexuan. I'm back here again. Li Jexuan smiled and curled his lips, suddenly punched through the self-portrait of Pommel Horse Bayan, and pulled out the terrifying demon. You guy, let me go. Who are you? Where's the Pommel Horse Yakumo? Li Jexuan pinched the devil's neck without saying a word and punched it. Boom. The demon exploded like a cloud of gas, but soon regrouped. Isn't it my demon? Can't you kill it? Li Jexuan frowned, thought about making a fist, and smashed the condensed demon into pieces again. But, Jia, you are not Kurama Yakumo, you can't kill me. The demon of Kurama Yakumo laughed wildly, you will never escape. If you don't send me back to Kurama Yakumo, I will keep you here forever. The voice has not fallen. Li Jexuan just moved his mind, and the entire illusion disappeared completely, leaving only the demon floating in the air alone. Ah, what's going on? The poor demon looked around, screaming like a hen, poor, weak, and helpless. As you said, I am not the weak idiot of Kurama Yakumo, I can't even control my own strength. Li Jexuan sneered and curled his lips. As for you want to go back to see her. The time on the calendar came to Konoha 13th year. Kibao town was officially renamed Xuanju town. The population has dropped from nearly 10,000 to more than 3,000. But this change did not arouse anyone's attention. For the daimyo of the water country, Kibao town was originally a pirate town, and some people died in the pirate war, so you don't have to worry about it. As long as there is a hidden foggy village, these pirates can't overcome the big storm. But what the daimyo of the water country didn't expect was that these 3,000 people all received the baptism of the snake's curse seal and gained the power of the fairy from Longdadong. Under the siege of 5 snake curse people, the general Shinobu is no match for him. On the shore of the newly renewed Profound Lord town, the waves were rough, and 2 small figures stood in front of the waves. Illusory darkness. The dark curtain is like the mouth of a demon that swallows the world, swallowing all the creatures it touches, and pulling it into the dark illusion. This is total darkness, like a blind person, completely deprived of vision. As the subject of the experiment, Oshimaru bowed to the ground respectfully. Master Jexuan, your dark secret technique has been completed. Li Jexuan nodded in satisfaction, and after harvesting the blood of Kurama Yakumo, following boundary, his mastery of illusion has improved several levels out of thin air. However, the A-level forbidden technique Dark Walk is after all a triumphant illusion of 1,000 hands. Even Li Jexuan took 3 days to master it. In these 3 days, Li Jexuan completely conquered Kibao town. Next, as long as you pass these 3,000 snake curses, you will soon be able to unify the entire water country pirate. Do you want to consider renamed Jiazan Lu Fei? However, forget it. Being a pirate in the world of Hokage is not in line with the style of this book. Oshimaru, Xuanju town will be handed over to you. Li Jexuan smiled and packed his luggage. After I return to Konoha, I will report you to sacrifice. Master Jiazan, won't you stay? Dashimaru knelt down with excitement. I want to stay with Master Yuzan and always serve you. Hearing this, Li Jexuan chuckled and shook his head. It is not advisable to worship blindly. Oshimaru, if you keep following me, you will never be alone. That smashing Uncle Snake can't be turned into a trash snack. Li Jexuan smiled and shook his head. If you really want to help me, you can do it as soon as possible. Let's study the real secret of immortality. After that, Li Jexuan resolutely left Profound Lord town. For Li Jexuan, Dashawan is just a dark chess set by him. As a chess player, naturally you cannot be influenced by chess pieces. What's more, the guy from the 2nd generation has given him a big problem this time. Konoha's agreement and document. On the flaming red paper, the gilded Konoha logo was shining, and Li Jexuan has not forgotten what Chinshojian said to him before leaving. Jiazan, in order to attack Shane, we must do our best. I will send you to the water country to negotiate a peace. Remember to complete the task, but you must not fall into the reputation of Konoha. Trigger task. Negotiation. Task content. Complete the negotiation without damaging Konoha's reputation. Task reward. A shadow-level treasure chest, 5,000 points. While negotiating peace, you can't lose your reputation. You want to be a female cousin, but you also want to establish a memorial arch. This is not easy. To make matters worse, after arriving near Wuin village according to the map given by Konoha, Li Jexuan discovered that the tall mountains here are connected together, and after climbing over a dozen high mountains to find nothing, he understands that if no one leads the way, he can't find the Wuin village. After searching for 5 days, Li Jexuan finally found a small village of ordinary people in the hidden forest. This village lives up to its name, it's very small. To be precise, there are only 20 households, and the first few seem to be farmers. As soon as Li Jexuan walked in, these people screamed, "Ninja, ninja," and then fled in a panic. There seemed to be a small shop in the middle. Although the young man in the shop was also very panicked, he did not escape after all, guarding his small shop tremblingly. "Hey, uncle, do you know where Wuin village is?" Li Jexuan's voice has not fallen. "What?" The young man screamed and rushed out of the shop and hid in the forest. TMD, I don't believe in this evil today. Li Jexuan knocked along the door of the village, but as soon as he saw Li Jexuan, the villagers screamed and fled, without exception. Only this last one is left. Li Jexuan gritted his teeth and knocked on the door. Meow. A cute black cat got out of the wooden door. Luo, don't run around. An elderly man chased out with a cane. That sign is Konoha's ninja. It seemed that he had noticed Li Jexuan, and the old man's eyes were wary. Such a small Konoha ninja, why are you here? It seems that this is a knowledgeable person, although you were welcome, but finally did not escape. Li Jexuan couldn't help but heaved a sigh of relief. I'm here to find Wuyin Village. As soon as the words of Wuyin Village were uttered, the old man's eyes widened, and his cloudy eyes were full of hysterical fear. After a while, the old man suppressed the tremor of his body, lowered his head, and let himself go. Come in and talk about it. 10 minutes later, Li Jexuan finally figured out what was going on. This village is called Wujing Village, because it is deep in the mountains and far away from war. Although it is not prosperous, it is also stable. It can be called a paradise in the world. The old man is the head of this village, named Wujing Saburo. The accident happened during the establishment of Wuyin Village. In the previous generations, ninjas burned, killed, and abused everywhere. Because of their location on the border, the ninjas lived in peace. But the original generation of Sujing calmed down the entire water country, and gathered all the ninja families to establish a misty hidden village near the foggy whale village. The nightmare of the whale village has appeared. Wuyin Village implements an iron blood policy, and only the strongest can become a water shadow. More wantonly hunting down the owners of the blood inheritance boundary, not to develop the economy, just endless duels, fighting. Let the entire Wuyin Village become tyrannical. Immediately afterwards, Misty Ninja slowly slipped out of Ninja Village and came to Wujing Village to do her best. Until later, they burned, killed, looted, and committed no evil. The opponent is the largest ninja village in the water country, and the Wujing Village has no choice but to let it be slaughtered, so that the population is now withered, and it is not far from extinction. Because of this, they are now very afraid of ninjas. As long as they see a ninja, they will run away desperately. Hearing this, Li Jexuan couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Could it be that Wuyin Village doesn't care? Man, why don't you care? Wujing Saburo sneered disdainfully. We also went to Wuyin Village to inform the informants. The high-level Wurin came to the village and apologized 1 minute before severely punishing his subordinates. The next minute he would put on a mask and personally kill the informants in the village. The chaos in Wuyin Village is beyond ordinary people's imagination. After all that, I'll pour you a glass of water to drink. Mist Whale Saburo put down the black cat in his arms, turned and left with a smile, and walked into the kitchen. Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. This trip to discuss peace seems not to be easy. Wuyin Village was originally a village for killing lunatics. In the anime, the blood mist is in a crazy state, and it will not change until Terumi Ming becomes a water shadow. As for now, it looks like you need to be prepared for battle. Li Jexuan took the water from Mizuki Saburo, squinted and smiled. Grandpa Village Chief, do you know why a ninja is called a ninja? Hearing this, the expression on Wujing Saburo's face suffocated, and said with a dry smile, I don't know, Grandpa has little knowledge. Because the ninja is a monster who is always on guard. Li Jexuan sneered and pinched the neck of the black cat by the table, and poured the glass of water in. As soon as the water entered its throat, the black cat opened its eyes wide and screamed. Roman, the village chief screamed heartbreakingly, and collapsed to the ground feebly, tears in his turbid eyes. But in a moment, the black cat named Xiao Luo died in front of the village chief. A touch of murderousness. Li Jexuan could clearly feel the killing intent of Wujing Saburo from the time when he spoke of Wuyin Village. Although weak, but determined. Why are you poisoning me? Li Jexuan asked the village chief coldly. It's best not to play tricks with me. If you didn't keep you asking for directions, you would be the one who drank the glass of water just now. Hearing this, Wujing Saburo couldn't help but shivered, and tremblingly said, You are going to Wuyin Village, and you will definitely disclose the news of our village. Then. It seems that this village was really frightened. Li Jexuan was silent. In his opinion, it was not worth 500 taels to pack and sell such a broken village. He, a multi-millionaire, would care about this. He, you may not care, but those mizens don't care about making a small fortune and having fun. Wujing Saburo fisted angrily. How many girls in our Wujing village have been ruined by those brutes? Terrible, terrible. But what about this? He is not Naruto. Naturally, it is impossible for Wu Jingsaburo to say that he is pitiful, so he will be hot-headed and cut down the entire Wuin village with one knife. But when Li Jexuan was secretly pursing his lips, a sudden scream sounded in the village. Ah, run away, ah Jane. No, ah Strong, I can't leave you alone. The man's voice was miserable, and the woman's voice was firmly affirmed. With these two sentences alone, Li Jexuan made up a sadomasochistic drama of Ah Jen and Ah Chang. Pushing the door open, Wu Ren's forehead gleamed in the sun, and the blood was also bright. Ahahaha, run, run. A shuriken hit Ah Chang's bare ankle, causing a whine. Kuwu Wudong penetrated Ah Jen's thigh again, completely severing the hope of escape between the two of them. Seeing this, Wu Yin smiled contentedly, obviously not doing such a thing for the first time. These mist shinobi are really abnormal. However, Li Jexuan didn't mean to shoot at all. Even the village chief was killed in front of him, and he didn't move half a step. There is no reason to shoot. In terms of the number of murders, nearly 10,000 bones are buried under Qibao town. However, silence will not necessarily welcome respect. Ha, everyone, look, there is a little ninja. The misty lower ninjas leaned to Li Jexuan's side with a sharp smile, laughing and teasing as if they were looking at something rare. Li Jexuan didn't like this look. Just as Li Jexuan was about to teach them the rules, Zongren of the Mist Ninja team arrived. Konoha's ninja. Just as Li Jexuan wanted to produce his identity certificate, the Misty Shinin suddenly became noisy. Haha, Boss Fang, don't look at it. This guy must be faked by these stupid villagers. Yes, let's just kill him. The ninjas waved their sharp kunai, and their crazy eyes were full of bloodthirsty killing intent. It can be seen that he doesn't care if Li Jexuan is Konoha's ninja at all. It's really a bunch of mad dogs. Li Jexuan frowned and fended off Kuwu. Facing such a crazy group of people, he had deep doubts about whether he could complete the negotiation task this time. However, it happens to be a try with you. Li Jexuan sneered at Jaeyin, and chakra moved between his palms, illusory art darkness. The terrifying black curtain was like the demon of hell. In an instant, it opened the huge mouth of the abyss and swallowed more than a dozen Wuren silently. What's this? I'm blind. Who is by my side, talking? I can do it without talking. For a time, more than a dozen famous fog reluctantly became a group. After a long while, Na Zongren stood up and waved his hand and shouted, "Don't panic, everyone, this is an illusion, we just need to untie it together." Solution. More than a dozen were immobilized chakra together, trying to break through the blockade of the illusion, however. What's the matter? Why couldn't I solve it? Is my dog really blind? The only Zongren looked around blankly. There is no reason. With the power of the 10 of us, even the A-level illusion can break through. It's the hands and feet of that Konoha imp. After a long while, Wu Shiren finally reacted, and roared, "Little devil, quickly solve it for us, otherwise I will kill you." It's really noisy, honestly enjoy the darkness. Long-term darkness was enough to destroy a person's mind. Li Jexuan found a rope and all these stupid guys. Smelly boy, let us go. At first, these misty ninjas still roared full of breath. But when time slowly passed, the hungry and thirsty Mizunas couldn't say anything. Immediately afterwards, a faint scent wafted in the air, pepper, cumin, salt and pepper, and a large stock of meat. This is barbecue. Li Jexuan fiddled with the barbecue on the fire, eating and drinking, so cool. Smelling the scent and starving for a whole day, the mist ninjas swallowed hard involuntarily. Gudong. Finally, one of Wuren surrendered. Master Konoha, I was wrong. Just treat me as a fart and let me go. Mist cried bitterly and said, I want to eat barbecue too. Li Jexuan smiled and unlocked the Wujin illusion, and threw a piece of barbecue in front of him. Thank you, thank you. Wuren picked up the barbecue and swallowed, his mouth filled with oil. At this moment, the other Wuren could not bear it any more. Have surrendered. Uncle Konoha, my name is Toothburst, I am Wuin Zongren. The leading Wuin Zongren has a big mouthful of teeth. We shouldn't kill these villagers, we confess. Hearing this, Li Jexuan curled his lips disdainfully. Who told you this? Whether the villagers are dead or alive is my shit. That's an internal problem in your water country. Then you are. Tooth violent is very confusing. Since it is not for the villagers, why do you want to torture them like this? I am Konoha's messenger for peace. Lee Jexuan grinned lightly of course, and his 8 white teeth were shining in the air. The Wu Ren were stunned. Are you sure it's a negotiation? After an hour, I am Konoha's messenger, this time I came to Wuyin village to discuss peace. Lee Jexuan smiled and nodded towards the dark part of Wuyin village, and the teeth on the side smiled unnaturally. We have confirmed his identity. Hearing this, the misty crow Anbu curled his lips in disdain. Does Konoha send out even such a small child to negotiate? It's ridiculous. Lee Jexuan pretended not to hear, and nodded with a smile. Please let Shui Ying come as soon as possible. Konoha came here with sincerity. Sneeze. Crow Anbu sneered coldly. Master Shui Ying doesn't meet the unknown. If you want to negotiate a peace, let your second-generation Hokage come personally. Also, our Wuyin village is not the kind of shinobu village like your Konoha. If you don't want to die, you guys should get out quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, Crow Anbu would ha-ha, laughing and turned and left. Obviously, he didn't put Lee Jexuan in his eyes at all. Hey, why do you always force me? Lee Jexuan shook his head helplessly. Obviously he had worked hard to restrain himself. But now, it seems completely unnecessary, because these guys don't know how to cherish it at all. Fairy Immortal Mode. The silver scale armor covered his whole body, and Lee Jexuan flew across the air like a god, floating in front of Crow Anbu. Why are you forcing me? What? Crow Anbu's eyes widened in surprise. Before he could make any response, a powerful fist quickly enlarged in his eyes. Boom! The crow's mask was completely sunken in, and the entire face bones were beaten into a mess. I am afraid I will have no face to see people in this life. You said you. Why do you want to pretend if you have no strength? Lee Jexuan lightly shook his head in disdain, and dozens of misty shadows appeared instantly, surrounding him firmly. You shot an injured Anbu. The leading elephant Anbu said coldly. Who are you? What is the purpose of coming to Wuyin? Hearing this, Lee Jexuan shrugged helplessly and took out the agreement document. I am the Shengren Lee Jexuan from Konoha. This time I came to Wuyin village to discuss peace. Negotiation. The Anbu widened their eyes in surprise, and turned to look at the Crow Anbu, who was already inhumane. Is the way of negotiating peace now so real? But what Lee Jexuan didn't expect was that he finally saw the misty second-generation water shadow ghost lantern magic moon. I heard that a 3-year-old Konoha ninja defeated our Anbu. Ghost Lantern Wanyu swaggered into Anbu and found Lee Jexuan. The Anbu on the side tried to stop, but in front of Shui Ying, he didn't have any expressions. I heard that you were the messenger sent by Konoha. Wei Deng Huanyu's eyes were full of joking. I also heard that you crippled in dark part as soon as you entered the mist. Lee Jexuan nodded helplessly. These are facts, there is nothing to refute. Ha ha ha. Ghost Lantern Wanyu Yangtian laughed. I haven't seen you such an interesting messenger, and you have such a powerful power at such a small age, it is really worth looking forward to. Don't you mind if I hurt your Anbu player? Lee Jexuan was a little puzzled. He didn't understand. His little brother had been beaten, why the Ghost Lantern Wanyu could still laugh. Of course I don't mind. Wei Lan Yu sneered disdainfully. He was injured by you because of his lack of strength. It is because he is too weak. Isn't it ridiculous to question the strong for the weak? What bandit logic is this? Lee Jexuan was silent, but this was also related to the way Wuyin selected Water Shadow. Although they are both ninjas of the same ninja village, they must learn to fight each other from the moment they become ninjas. This kind of battle will not temporarily come to an end until the most powerful ninja is contested. Because of this, the only creed Wuyin believes in is that the strong is supreme. So, did you agree to a peace talk? Lee Jexuan raised his eyebrows in doubt. Although it is said that Ghost Lantern Wanyu admires powerful young people very much in the anime, will he do that? No, no. Ghost Lantern Wanyu grinned grinningly. Of course I don't agree with the negotiation. Why? Because, war is very interesting. Ghost Lantern Wanyu stretched out her tongue and smiled abnormally. What's more, I haven't fought against Naruto yet. Who is strong and who is weak, you have to fight to know. This is a fighting madman through and through. But Lee Jexuan caught the most important sentence. So, as long as Hokage defeats you, you will give up the war. Lee Jexuan squinted his eyes and stared at the Ghost Lantern Moon. Hearing this, Gui Lan Huan Yu smiled and looked around, and said excitedly, "Why, Qinsho Janma, who is known as the fastest speed, has arrived." "No, he didn't come." Li Jexuan sneered and stood up. "But as long as I beat you, all this can be over, right?" "You." Ghost Lantern Wanyu stared at Li Jexuan and laughed. "You mean, you want to challenge me? Maybe you can wait more than 10 years, you can do it." "No, I mean, I want to defeat you." Li Jexuan categorically tore the discussion and documents to pieces. "Since he can't convince you, then he will convince you." But when he heard this, the surrounding mists laughed loudly. "You dare to challenge Lord Shuiying? Really reckless. Lord Shuiying is the strongest of all of us." However, Ghost Lantern Wanyu's expression became unprecedentedly serious, and stared at Li Jexuan coldly. "You know, I won't be merciful." "Me too." Li Jexuan sneered disdainfully. "As long as I win you, you will stop the war between Wuyin and Konoha. If you lose, you will stay in the fog and be my life's guard." Gui Deng Huan Yu sneered and curled his lips. "If you want to win by relying on the nine-tailed chakra in your body, then you have miscalculated." Quote. Trigger task. Make an appointment with Water Shadow. Task content. Wuyin only believes in power, uses power to conquer the Water Shadow, and complete the negotiation. Task reward. 1 Shadow level treasure chest, 10,000 points. At this point, the duel between Li Jexuan and the second generation Shui Ying has been determined. Konoha's 3-year-old child, Li Jexuan, challenged the Misty Water Shadow, the Ghost Lantern Moon. The news spread throughout the misty streets and lanes for the first time, and even other countries heard the news. When Chinshaokai, who was far away in Konoha, received the news, his heart collapsed. "This kid, I asked him to negotiate a peace, not to die." Chinshojian shook his head helplessly, and handed the information to Sarutobi Risen. "This guy dares to challenge in Wuyin village. Shui Ying is really too long. But, what if Li Jexuan wins the fight?" Sarutobi Risen said abruptly. "At the beginning, we didn't expect that he could kill Lidu alone." Between the mountains, two figures stand opposite each other. Without any signs, the battle started instantly. Water escaped the art of water iron cannon. Gui Deng Huan Yu showed no mercy, raised a finger, and shot a penetrating water bomb at Li Jexuan, an absolute attack. Fairy Immortal Mode, 8 Doors Dunjia Jingmun. Li Jexuan was not to be outdone, and the ice blue armor and vegetation armor covered his body in the slight movement of his mind, providing absolute defense. Absolute attack vs absolute defense. Li Jexuan deliberately tried the water iron cannon of the ghost lamp and the moon, and greeted him straight up. Puff! But when the water iron cannon touched the ice armor, Li Jexuan frowned. The ice armor shattered too fast, and the power of this water iron cannon was far beyond Li Jexuan's imagination. Almost at the same time, the wooden escape armor also shattered. Then came the last layer of defense. The silver scale armor in the immortal Jiao Ren mode was also unable to resist, but it persisted for a while and was still penetrated. Fortunately, at this moment, Li Jexuan turned around and let the water iron cannon flew out while rubbing his arm. As expected of Shui Ying, it is really strong. After a small loss, Li Jexuan became more careful. If Lidu is slightly stronger than Shangren, then this Ghost Lantern Huan Yu undoubtedly reached the level of Akatsuki's organization. Li Jexuan relied on speed to avoid the water iron cannon, and quietly pressed towards the Ghost Lantern Wanyu, trying to use physical skills to decide the victory. Fortunately, Ghost Lantern Magic Moon didn't seem to notice this. The distance between the two is getting closer. Finally, the distance is enough. 8 Gate Dunjia toward the peacock. Li Jexuan flew up into the sky, and the extraordinary speed of his fists caused the air to burn, like a huge peacock that has been opening the screen, completely submerging the stunned Ghost Lantern and Moon. How is this possible? How could Master Shuiying be so defeated? Master Shuiying lost to a child. While everyone was talking about it, the fireworks sparked by the peacock gradually dissipated, and the Ghost Lantern Huan Yu stood in place intact. How is it possible? Li Jexuan's unbelief in evil swings again at the peacock. But Ghost Lantern Wanyu still stood unscathed, smiling quietly at Li Jexuan. "No, it's not right. This is an illusion." Li Jexuan suddenly woke up. Even Gaara, who was invincible, could not always be stubbornly attacking the peacock. In that case, there was only one explanation. Psychic Beast Mirage. In the anime, this huge shell and Psychic Beast left a deep impression on Lee Jexuan. Together with the ghost lamp and the moon, it can create a huge mirage, a mirage. Ha ha ha, even if you know what. The ghost lantern phantom laughed loudly. In the midst of a mirage, you can never hurt me. Hearing this, Lee Jexuan smiled and shook his head, and took out a drawing board from his pocket. What are you doing? Ghost Lantern Huan Yu was a little nervous instinctively. Draw. Lee Jexuan smiled and flipped the drawing board, and a huge white shell suddenly appeared on the paper. This is a mirage. Wei Lan Huan Yu widened her eyes in surprise. Why do you know my psychic beast? What do you want to do? Lee Jexuan chuckled and waved the animation pen, and a thick bucket of thunder slammed down, splitting a huge shell out of invisibility. With a bang, the psychic beast was torn apart and returned to the land of psychic. The illusion of the mirage is self-defeating. What kind of illusion is this? Wei Lan Huan Yu's eyes widened in surprise. He didn't understand why the illusion would become a reality. Lee Jexuan smiled slightly. Ghost Lantern Huan Yu naturally wouldn't know. The strongest blood succession of the Pommel Horse clan will appear in 50 years. However, don't be proud of you, it's just the beginning. Ghost Lantern Huan Yu roared Jayan, water escape water balloon technique. Hundreds of billowing water balloons floated and hovered in the air. Ghost Lantern Huan Yu smiled and waved his arms. Now, you can't escape. Hundreds of water balloons slowly surrounded Lee Jexuan, and the seemingly harmless water balloons seemed to explode with just one poke. Use physique. As long as you use physique, these water balloons will teach you a profound lesson. Ghost Lantern Huan Yu grinned lightly. It's a bad habit to judge people by their appearance. However, Thunder Dun Thousand Birds Sharp Spear. The huge thunder tree shot out from the grass pheasant sword, instantly detonating all the water vapor bubbles. Why don't you use physical skills, but use chakra to consume such a large amount of thunder? Wei Lan Huan Yu widened her eyes in confusion. You seem to know me well. This battle was really frustrated, and Lee Jexuan easily cracked it after he had just used a master ninjutsu. In front of Lee Jexuan, he was like a naked kid, without any secrets. How should this answer? Lee Jexuan was a little helpless. He couldn't tell Ghost Lantern Huan Yu. You actually said all this in person, let alone I know. To be precise, hundreds of millions of people know your ninjutsu routines. When you hit an invisible clam in a mirage, the water vapor bubble will explode, and the steaming clone will explode indefinitely. Before the words were over, Ghost Lantern Huan Yu couldn't help it anymore, and roared out his strongest ninjutsu tactics, Steam the Danger. Grumbling, a cute little fat man slowly separated from Ghost Lantern Huan Yu. This is the explosion of steaming danger, oil on the surface and water inside. Die. The cute Q version of the ghost lamp is surprisingly fast. Under the two modes, Lee Jexuan can't make the gap. With a light wave of his sharp arm, he cut dozens of trees in half. Both power and speed are far stronger than the state of expression in anime. The gap between the rebirth of the foul soil and the power of living people has already been seen in Golden Horn and Silver Horn. Seeing that the fat guy made up of oil and water became bigger and bigger, Lee Jexuan couldn't help but shook his head slightly. The second generation of water shadows really is not a simple thing. But, Lee Jexuan smiled and took out the drawing board. Within a few seconds, a freezing blizzard appeared, covering the entire valley. Controlling the weather is not too simple for Kurama Yakumo's talent. The blizzard made the heat of steaming dangerous explosive power no longer increase, and the cycle of alternating hot and cold explosion was broken. How is this going? Ghost Lantern Moon is going crazy. He doesn't understand why a blizzard suddenly appeared in the clear sky. You lose. Lee Jexuan stood in front of Ghost Lantern Huan Yu and cast his mouth coldly. According to the agreement, you must immediately withdraw from the frontline Mist Shinobi and stop the war with Konoha. Quote. After a long silence, Ghost Lantern Huan Yu laughed loudly. Yes, I lost. The young people nowadays are really amazing. Unexpectedly, Ghost Lantern Huan Yu was very calm about his defeat, and said that he would definitely withdraw Wuren from the battlefield. However, others are not so generous. Lord Shuiying really lost. Now, what should we do? In any case, we can't let this kid return to Konoha, otherwise our misty faces will be lost. Wyan's comments were full, and Lee Jexuan could feel a lot of malicious gazes. However, since Deidara can take Gaara away from Cheyenne alone, Li Jexuan has the confidence to defeat the ghost lantern Wanyu and leave the fog safely. The atmosphere on the scene became more and more solemn, and the crowds of onlookers were about to move, and they might pounce on Li Jexuan at any time. However, at the moment of this moment, Ghost Lantern Wanyu smiled and waved to Li Jexuan. I haven't lost for a long time, so convinced. Do you want to have a drink? Of course, knowing that Ghost Lantern Wanyu helped him out, Li Jexuan would naturally not refuse. 10 minutes later, looking at the milky white liquid in the cup, Li Jexuan grinned involuntarily. But, why is it milk? Ha ha ha. Ghost Lantern Wanyu laughed loudly. Children can't drink. That night, the host and the guest enjoyed themselves. When the wine bureau ended, the Ghost Lantern Wanyu fell in front of Li Jexuan and whispered, "Little devil, run away, these guys under me will not let you go." Hearing this, Li Jexuan smiled slightly and turned and walked back to the guest room. Of course he knew that these guys would not let him go. However, it is not his style to run away directly. Completion of the negotiation task. Obtain a shadow-level treasure chest with 10,000 points. The task of defeating the Ghost Lantern and the Magic Moon is completed. Obtain a shadow-level treasure chest with 5,000 points. Out of the box. Beginner Random Experience Scroll, Primary Random Experience Scroll, Kagaya G's Food Trap. Li Jexuan was silent when he took out the food trap that still seemed to have a faint smell remaining. What a strange thing. But leaving aside, ding, 2 identical props are detected and can be merged. Is it a scroll of experience? Li Jexuan frowned. It had always been a scroll of junior experience and he was very puzzled. It seems that the change is here. Fusion. The 2 dim primary random experience scrolls melted into 2 of silver liquid, and then slowly solidified into a silver flashing metal scroll, the intermediate Naruto experience scroll. From elementary to intermediate, what has changed? Li Jexuan slowly unfolded the scroll, but what is strange is that Li Jexuan was not directly sucked into the different time and space by the scroll, but a clear picture appeared. If you don't cut an white scroll, the big snake pill invades Konoha scroll. The whole story of Hokage jumps above the scroll, but it is bounded by the farthest plot Li Jexuan has reached. The plot after that is dark and the plot before is bright. It seems that bright places can be chosen freely, but no matter how Li Jexuan touches the dark places, there is no reaction at all. Intermediate experience scrolls have a certain degree of freedom of choice. So, where are you going? Is it the story of Dashimaru attacking Konoha, or the story of Star Shinobu Village? Li Jexuan hesitated for a while, and suddenly his eyes lit up. It's decided, go here. Ding. The sun at dawn is warm and gentle, birds sing and cicadas sing, and the vegetation is fragrant. Have a baby. The handsome blonde man was flushing while holding the batter, and the young woman with fiery red hair was excited and affirmed, I have a baby. I want to be a father. I want to be a mother. The excited couple kept talking about the good news and hugged each other tightly. What a happy silly couple. October 10th. After confirming the plot, Li Jexuan smiled and turned and left. It was 5 months before the plot officially began. This was also the longest plot span. But it's okay. Li Jexuan took out the sealed book. It's just this time to learn the ninjutsu of the sealed book. It would be too wasteful to learn only one dark line. The next ninjutsu is the art of flying thunder god. Happy time is always so short. 5 months are fleeting, and the due date of October 10th is approaching. Let my wife Lake Biwa be by your side, and go to the barrier outside the village for childbirth. Sarutobi Hazumi commanded Mizumin Shinkuna with a serious expression. As the sun sets, Sarutobi Lake Biwa leads Shinkuna towards the barrier outside the village. In the middle. So cute, what's this kid's name? Sasuke. The fateful first encounter. It's just that Sasuke is outside and Naruto is still inside. The plot proceeded in an orderly manner, and Li Jexuan never had any direct contact with the plot characters from beginning to end. Ha ha ha. The war orphans were playing at the entrance of the village. Li Jexuan watched the departure of Shinkuna and Lake Biwa quietly, and nodded secretly in his heart. The plot is finally about to begin. Jia Zanjun, what are you thinking? You are a ghost. The cute little girl smiled and ran away. You can only come to us if you count to 100. Li Jexuan smiled and nodded. Okay. As night fell, in the depths of the river valley, the seal secretary completely blocked the sound in the secret room by the river valley, and 4 onbi firmly guarded the seal entrance. Ah, A stern and long scream penetrated the eardrums. Shinkuna was lying on the bed, and Lake Biwa was delivering her baby. However, at this time, a mysterious person with a black and yellow mask suddenly appeared, quietly killed 4 Anbu, and got into the secret room. The plot has officially begun. That's right, Li Jexuan chose neither the Oshimaru invaded Konoha nor the Shingnan village branch line, but only appeared in the memory in its entirety. More than 10 years ago in the timeline, Naruto was born, and Nine Tails run away. With a cry in the secret room, Naruto landed. Shinkuna and the Mizuman family hugged tightly, but before they were reunited for a few seconds, Lake Biwa who delivered the baby had his throat cut by the mysterious masked man who suddenly appeared. Lord Biwa. The masked man chuckled and wanted to take Naruto from Lake Biwa, but at this moment, "You lied to you." Pippa Lake, holding Naruto suddenly jumped up and grinned, "Zhao Lei Che." The pale Lei Che seemed to penetrate everything. It's a pity that Uchiha brought the guy's kaleidoscope riding wheel eyes to this guy. Shinwei sucked him into a different space at the moment of his death. Time and space ninjutsu is really ridiculous. Li Jexuan shook his head helplessly. The immortal Zhao mode and the 8-gate Dunjia Jingmun opened at the same time, turning around to block Uchiha's chain ninja. I don't know when, but brought the soil and moved behind Li Jexuan with Shinwei. Space ninjutsu, magical. However, after all, he was still a miss. With precautions, the power of God can't steal Li Jexuan's things. But at this moment, Shinkuna screamed in pain, and Kyuubi was desperately hitting the seal. Seeing that Naruto was not in danger of life, Mizuman was ignorant of other things, and tried to suppress Kyuubi with a seal. Seeing this, Daitu no longer cared about vying for Naruto, so he could only bite the bullet and rush forward to fight the 4 generations. Seeing that no one cares about him, Li Jexuan smiled and waved. If this is the case, then goodbye. What? The art of Flying Thunder God. After a full second delay, Li Jexuan completed the Flying Thunder God technique and jumped into time and space. Flying Thunder God's technique is worthy of being the top ninjutsu in the entire Naruto world. Holding Naruto, Li Jexuan walked into the Konoha orphanage, shrugging helplessly. After studying for 5 months, I haven't been able to fully grasp it. What? Why did you choose the Nine Tails invasion? Li Jexuan was naturally for the reincarnated Asura bloodline of Naruto. However, it is not time yet. Li Jexuan didn't forget how Naruto world reacted when he tried to extract the blood of Indra last time. Li Jexuan believes that as long as he has any signs of plotting the blood of Asura, the 6 Tao immortals may jump out and smooth everything. It's far from the time to leave. Li Jexuan smiled and helped Shao Naruto cover the quilt, then turned and walked out of the orphanage. President, that is the abandoned baby I found outside, take care of him. With that said, Li Jexuan suddenly disappeared around the corner. The secret room outside the village. Hello, I'm back again. This time, Li Jexuan showed his true colors, making the 4 generations and the soil involuntarily stunned. Why would a child appear here? Flying Thunder God's technique, are you the guy just now? The 4th generation came back to his senses and blocked the 2 Chao Li Jexuan from roaring. Where did you take Naruto? It's a safe place. Li Jexuan smiled carelessly and nodded towards the soil. Cooperate. Kyuubi for you, Shinkuna for me. Hearing this, he froze for a while, and nodded slightly in fear. Okay. With his own strength, it really can't help Watergate. At best, it can only prevent the Watergate from adding a seal to Shinjuna, but after a while, it changes, and he doesn't want to take risks. Shinwei, Flying Thunder God's art. In front of the 2 space ninjutsu bosses, Li Jexuan, an unskilled Flying Thunder God, could only play support, and cooperate with the soil to suppress the Watergate. I stand on the edge most of the time. Does it become an entity only when it is attacking? In the midst of the fight, Watergate quickly discovered the secret of the divine power, and secretly calculated in his heart. In this case, it depends on the attack speed to determine the outcome. Whoever strikes first wins. At that moment, 2 people moved at the same time. Watergate raised his hand and shot a handful of time and space kuwu towards the head of the masked man, but unfortunately the body was blurred by the divine might and passed straight through. At this time, the masked man's movements were obviously faster than Watergate. In this case, as long as the masked man touches the Watergate, everything is over. Shinwei will the Watergate into the different space, and then slowly concoct it. In an instant, the winner must be decided. But when the masked man thought he would succeed, Flying Thunder God. Suddenly, the water gate flashed to the time and space kunai behind the masked man, and the spiral pill fell down in his palm. Sorry, the technique of Thunder God. Li Jexuan smiled and transferred the masked man to the technique of Thunder God aside. Even though it was the God of Thunder that was delayed by 1 second, the critical moment could also play a role in turning the tide of the battle. Boom! The 4 generations of Helix pills smashed the ground, and the aftermath made Shinkuna on the side even more painful. Watergate. The wail of his wife distracted the 4 generations. Li Jexuan sneered at Jaeyin, illusory art darkness. The black curtain swallowed everything around in an instant, and the Watergate and the masked man subconsciously flickered out of the darkness. But the next second, oops, Shinkuna, Kyuubi. The 2 flashed back into the darkness again, and the 4th generation appeared directly in front of Shinkuna through the of thunder. It is a pity that in just 1 second, the needle tube of Shueijiji has finished its work. The fiery red blood flows in the needle tube. The blood of the Whirlpool clan continues to limit. Li Jexuan smiled and waved to the 4 generations. Goodbye, Watergate, I will put your child in the orphanage. Li Jexuan smiled and left, leaving them with Shinkuna who was dying and the 9-tailed demon fox who was about to break his stomach. The blood succession boundary that had lost the Whirlpool could no longer suppress this peerless beast by sealing technique alone. Seeing this, Dai Tu no longer hesitated, the kaleidoscope riding round eyes bloomed, trying to control the 9 tails. Although Mizuman was willing to stop it, Shinkuna who was seriously injured and dying made him unable to take care of. Watergate can only activate the of thunder, and for the time being, he sent Shinjuna to a safe place. At this time, the kaleidoscope of the masked man's eyes was gradually assimilating to the eyes of Kyuubi, and he was about to control Kyuubi. Hello, I'm here again. Li Jexuan went and returned, suddenly appeared in front of the masked man. The distance was so close that he could feel the breath of both parties. It's that time. The masked man was shocked, and when Li Jexuan rescued him from Watergate, he left him with the technique of Flying Thunder God. The Comer is not good. However, the masked man who was trying to control the 9 tails was unable to activate the divine power for the first time. 9 tails belong to you, your eyes belong to me. Li Jexuan smiled and stretched out his hand. With the immortal Jiao Ren mode and the speed of the 8-gate Dunjia Jingmen, the masked man had no time to react. What? With a screaming scream, Li Jexuan smashed the mask and forced out the kaleidoscope to right the wheel. The technique to control 9 tails was interrupted, and 9 tails became completely violent. The angry 9 tails will try to control it and bite to death. Li Jexuan smiled and waved. Now, see you again. Back at the orphanage, Li Jexuan smiled and took out the needle, and without hesitation, he pierced Naruto with a slight tap. I found you, little thief. The old Uchiha Madara appeared suddenly, and Kurozu stood beside him, apparently monitoring the dirt that brought Uchiha Madara over. It seems reasonable, but Li Jexuan knew that this was just a countermeasure by this Hokage world against him stealing the blood of Asura. Susanna. Sure enough, Uchiha Madara didn't come for profit at all, and he would kill him if he shot. But, get Asura bloodline latent. When the system prompt sounded, Li Jexuan grinned. When consciousness was restored again, Li Jexuan had returned to Wuren's room. There was the sound of rustling footsteps outside the door. Wunen's killer had arrived. It really doesn't make people stop. Li Jexuan clenched his fist and blasted the whole house into ruins. The Jiao Shanren mode and the 8-door Dunjia shot out from the ruins. Come out, don't let this kid run away. Fly and chase him, and shoot him down for me who can't fly. All kinds of ninjutsu flew to the sky like raindrops. However, the art of Flying Thunder God. All night, the Hidden Misty ninjas rummaged almost the entire Hidden Misty village. However, Li Jexuan was still nowhere to be seen. Where did this guy go? After a busy night, he didn't even find a personal figure, but instead caused the whole Uavian village to make trouble. Mist Shinobu can't help but feel a little discouraged. Okay, he's gone. Ghost Lantern Wanyu frowned and walked out of the Water Shadow Mansion. Only then were the Misty people willing to give up and go back to each house and find each mother. When all the people were gone, Ghost Lantern Wanyu smiled and came to the ruins of the previous guest room. Okay, come out. There was an inexplicable noise from the collapsed ruins, and Li Jexuan smiled and came out. it seems that I can't hide Shui Ying's eyes. Hearing this, Ghost Lantern Wanyu laughed loudly. Actually, I guessed it too, I'll send you out. When Li Jexuan jumped out of the ruins, the Wujinmen were disturbed by the misunderstanding of their thinking and never searched here again, but what they never expected was that Li Jexuan had already returned to the ruins through the technique of the Flying Thunder God. I just heard that there is a ninjutsu trick of time and space shuttle in thousands of hands. Wei Deng Huan Yu exclaimed. I just didn't expect that you actually learned this trick at such a young age. Rarely, Li Jexuan was a little embarrassed. The technique of Flying Thunder God is too complicated, even after 5 months of studying with his aptitude, he is barely able to use it. Compared with Watergate, they are not even worse. However, these are not problems for Li Jexuan, who is only 3 years old. The dawn has just arrived, and the shimmering dawn is shining in the sky. Facing the dawn, Ghost Lantern Wanyu sent Li Jexuan to the entrance of the village. Just when they were about to part, the Misty who had just returned to the village while searching outside actually ran into him head-on. Master Shuiying, good morning. Wu Yin greeted casually, but the next second was like a drake with his neck locked, pointing to Li Jexuan and blushing. Seeing that the drake was about to scream, Ghost Lantern Wanyu covered his mouth. Hush, you haven't seen it, do you understand? After a long while, the drake calmed down, and after nodding to agree, he turned his head one step at a time and left. It looks like you are in trouble. Li Jexuan grinned lightly. Even the water shadow, affecting the reputation of Wuyin village, and shielding foreign enemies is enough for him to drink a pot. But the Ghost Lantern Wanyu who heard this just showed a grinning smile. Ha, in front of absolute strength, why do they cause me trouble? This is the Ghost Lantern magic moon, the domineering that a water shadow should have. However, in this way, Li Jexuan would not understand something. Why didn't you kill me? A 3-year-old child defeated Shui Ying in public, which was undoubtedly a humiliation to him, but Ghost Lantern Huan Yu did not intend to kill him. Because it can't be done. Ghost Lantern Wanyu smiled and waved goodbye. Although I am warlike, I am not a fool, a 3-year-old shadow-level powerhouse, I don't want to be a sinner in Wuyin village. What's more, I want to see if you will leave in the future. How far? As the rumors said, Ghost Lantern Moon has an inexplicable love and expectation for young people. In this way, the knowledge and anime is not entirely cheating, but he defeated Shuiying in public and was sent out of the village respectfully by Shuiying. Even Prince Naruto doesn't have this treatment, right? Li Jexuan left Wuyin village with a smile. 3 days later, Profound Lord Town. Slowly pushing the golden Asura blood and the needle into his body, Li Jexuan could feel that at a certain moment, 2 energies, one cold and one hot, suddenly met. Like cold and hot, like chaos, like yin and yang, it is for yin and yang to escape. A black energy ball slowly rises behind Li Jexuan, floating above his head. This is Seeking Daoyu. Li Jexuan's eyes widened in surprise, and the introduction in the system quietly changed. Asura bloodline latent and Indra bloodline latent are transformed into Yin and Yang Ludaoshan human body latent. If Naruto is Yang, Sasuke is Yin. At this moment, Li Jexuan has both Yin and Yang, just like Daijin Mu Wei Ji. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.